Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. There she is. Now, funny thing, true crime and law. I don't know what the hell that is, but this is where you can find Katie Magbanua's retrial. So let me just finagle this little thingy over here. So basically, she was tried jointly with her baby daddy, right? Sigfredo Garcia, aka Alfredo. And he was found guilty and the jury hung on her. So she was retried again by herself in 2022, which is actually more recent than I initially had thought, just from my own recollection, 2022. So this is, look at Wendy's face. So this is from Katie Magbanua's retrial in 2022. So we've got different attorneys, except the same prosecutors. You're still going to see Georgia, as of course, but different judge as well. So welcome back, Twiz. You feel cheated? Why do you feel cheated? Let me know. Let me know what I can do for you. So there she is in this funny, like her faces though, like all of her faces. Yeah, true crime and law, though. That's pretty funny. So yeah, so this is a big day. So hi, welcome back, Sudie. So we have, oh, well, no, I'm still working. The maps, look, the maps is a whole project. I'm going to have to get creative to figure out how to do what I envision doing, because the way I'm doing it is just not working because I don't have the technology. Like, anyway, so I'm going to try to utilize something with my iPad. But anyway, but we said Wendi. But welcome back to everybody. Happy to see you guys. So yeah, so this is a big day in Katie's trial. So on this day, we're going to watch testimony from Wendi, obviously. And also, if we have time, we'll watch Jeff, her ex-boyfriend. And also, guess who else we hear from? Luis Rivera, who doesn't testify. I don't believe. I don't remember him testifying at Charlie's trial. I don't think he does. So that's the one, the hitman who took the plea deal early on. Yeah, I don't think he testifies at Charlie's trial. So anywho, yeah, the maps are just a whole thing. I mean, it's like, I want to be able to map all the different routes, color code it, and I want to be able to overlay it with Payne's quote unquote maps, if you can call them that, and also with the cell towers. Like, that's what I envision. And it would be amazing. Like, what I would love to be able to do is like extract, if you will, the cell towers from the map, cell tower map, and like plop the cell towers onto the Google map or whatever. I just, so anyway, it's a whole thing. So yes. So welcome. Happy to see all of you guys here. So here she is. And I don't know who this person is. Oh, that's probably law enforcement. So, yeah, so again, we're in May of 2022. And I think that this witness is finishing up. Yeah, look, everybody's got masks on. COVID. Oh, they're waiting on the judge. The judge is Judge Wheeler. Just gonna jump ahead. This is not Wendi. We want Wendi.
Cross-examination after the break, and the attorneys will be talking to you outside.
Yeah, excellent. Get her out of there. Give us Wendi.
Right, Wendi Adelson, please.
Here we go. Trying to move the subtitles there. And there's George. And there's actually that's Sarah Dugan, actually, the other prosecutor. Here she comes, guys. Oh my god. Look at her stupid outfit. Sorry, y'all.
Okay, Ms. Adelson, if you come to the witness stand, please.
And then there's Georgia Kappelman again.
Before you have a seat, we're going to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Respond to the clerk.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Please have a seat.
There she
Ms. Kappelman.
is.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Look at her face. Look at her face. Oh my God. What's roll of paper? Is that an emoji that I can't see because it's on StreamYard?
Please introduce yourself and spell your name.
Oh, she needs no introduction. Hold on. I have to do this. Pause. I need to do this here though. Here's what I'll say about an introduction for Wendi. What I'll say is I will just quote Wendi to herself.
I'm usually a lot more fun.
My name is Wendi Adelson, Wendiadel.
Wendi with an I.
Ms. Adelson, where do you currently live?
I currently live in Miami Beach.
And are you here today pursuant to a state subpoena?
Oh my God, this is like such a treat. Because she got the hell out of Tallahassee. Dude, you know the thing is, when she got to Charlie's trial, I think she learned perhaps some of her mistakes. And so this is going to be really exciting compared to that, I think.
Yes, I am.
And do all state subpoenas confer immunity?
I don't know if all state subpoenas confer immunity, but this one does.
Okay, and do you believe that your subpoena is special or different from other
It's
state
derivative use immunity.
subpoenas?
I don't believe it's special or different, so I suppose they all
It's
carry
not special or
immunity.
different.
Right. Does the immunity conferred upon you by the subpoena mean that you can never be prosecuted and associated with this case?
That's right.
That's what you think it means?
That's what I think it means.
Okay. And do you think, isn't it true that it's use and derivative use immunities?
Uh-huh.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. But not complete immunity from
So
prosecution.
did you guys hear her answer? She's an attorney, first of all. She just said she thought that it meant that she could never be prosecuted. That's not it. I mean, either she's dumb enough to think that, or she's just saying that, hoping that the prosecutors are gonna just believe it. Like, that's not it. As we know, it just means that they can't use her statements from these trials against her in her own trial.
Do you agree with that?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's different than what you just asked before. So I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Oh my God. This is such a shit show already.
So what I'm trying to allow the jury to understand is what sort of immunity you have. What is your understanding
In
of
Charlie's trial, she figured this out to where she could answer like, yes, I get it. And it wasn't such a disaster. So she must have practiced it.
what it means for you to
Wow.
have immunity pursuant to the state subpoena?
So I have derivative and use immunity. And so in the future,
Wow.
a prosecutor couldn't use what I say here today against me.
Here you go. Now you got it, Wendi. Round of applause for Wendi. She finally got it. Right. It's not that you can't be prosecuted. It's not that you can't be charged. Let's just make sure we're clear.
Correct. But you
Right.
could be prosecuted. Just nothing you said here today could be used against you in
That's
that
funny.
prosecution. Do you agree with that?
I suppose so.
I suppose so. I'm Wendi.
Have you made any sort of special deal with the state attorney's office or with any law enforcement or government agent?
No.
So
All right. Was there a
there's
time
also
that
the joke too, guys. Someone in the chat might remember specifically. There was this joke that she wore the same dress for like multiple court proceedings over like a course of like 8 years or something. Do you guys remember specifically? I'm pretty sure this dress is the same dress. And it's like she wore this same dress in all the other trials and like, I don't know, maybe a deposition or something. And it's like it became the running joke. And she finally figured it out, I guess. And then at Charlie's trial, everyone was joking, like, is she going to wear the same dress again? And she wore a different dress. It's just amazing.
you lived in Tallahassee?
Yes, I used to live in Tallahassee.
What was the time frame that you lived here?
I was here for about 8 years. I lived here.
I think she's wearing her stupid contacts again, too, guys, because I'm pretty sure she has brown eyes. Oh, my God, her stupid contacts. I can't.
Last year of law school, so the academic year 05-06, we were in Miami for 06-07, and then I would have been back 2007 to 2014.
All right. And what brought you back to Tallahassee after you returned to Miami after law school?
Well, I went to Tallahassee to finish law school.
Yeah, you can tell that by the time she got to Charlie's trial, she had practiced her answers. You can really tell. You can just tell from the way she's answering, from where her eyes are moving, that it's interesting. She must have finished with this and been like, oh, yeah, I just got fucked every type of which way. And like, I'm going to just like practice the fuck out of my answers before the next trial. Yeah. Oh.
And then we went to Miami because Danny had a job opportunity at University of Miami.
Okay.
It didn't come to fruition. He was not hired.
I
So
know.
we came back to Florida State.
And
She
so-
loves telling that part of the story about how he was not hired. She loves telling that part, which is really frustrating for me because the number of people that, you know, I've had been fortunate enough to be exposed to, because mostly via STS, that knew him personally, or like were students of his, literally all of them said he was so beyond brilliant that they were just like, FSU is just like a stop on his way to go be like, you know, go do something incredible, like either at an Ivy League school or like, you know, I don't know, like apparently his mind was just really built for the law and he was really talented at it. And so, you know, this whole thing about him not getting that job, we don't know the details of that. It could be whatever. It's definitely not because he wasn't, I mean, it could have been he was overqualified, because sometimes that can happen, right? And then, you know, they can't pay you the salary. However, Wendi just loves to always throw that in there, that he didn't get a job, and make him look like he was not good at law. And yeah. Jamal. Oh, and then also there's like in her interrogation,
your husband had a job
to make it seem like he's an abusive husband too. There's that.
opportunity here at
Wild.
Florida State.
Wild.
Okay. And that's what brought you to Tallahassee.
That's what brought us here.
And you also had a job opportunity at Florida State. Is that right?
That's right.
What was that job?
I worked at the FSU Center for Human Rights. And at first I was a staff attorney. I used to represent victims of violent crime, asylum seekers, and victims of human trafficking. And then I taught various classes at FSU Law School. And then I ran something called the Medical Legal Partnership.
And how long did you do that?
I was working at FSU for 7 years.
All right. So basically the whole time you were here in Tallahassee.
When I wasn't a student, I was working for FSU.
All right.
See, that's
When did you
so
meet?
the answer is yes. She could have just said yes, but she had to try to make it seem like she was getting the better of that. And that I hate it when people do that.
Dan Markel.
Danny and I met first online.
Where's
We
Heather?
met when I was
Heather!
starting my 2L year of law school. So that would have been 04, fall of 2004.
And when were the two of you married?
Is there a difference?
We were married in February 2006.
Do you have any children in common?
We have 2 children,
All right. Both boys?
both boys.
All right. During the time that you moved to Tallahassee, the second time to work here at Florida State, were you living with Dr. Markel the entire time as a married couple?
I'm sorry, Dr. Markel?
I'm sorry, Mr. Markel, Dan Markel.
Oh, for
your
fuck's
husband.
sake. You know who she's talking
Were we
about.
living
Glenn.
as a married couple when we returned to Tallahassee?
Yes.
Yes. So by
Alright.
that point, we returned in August maybe of 06. So we got married in February of 06. We've been married 6 months by then.
And the entire time that you were living as a married couple, was that at the Trescott address that we've seen? photos of
Trescott,
earlier?
y'all.
No, we lived first in a rented house. I actually don't remember what neighborhood it was now. It's been a while. But we lived there until we bought our house. So maybe 6 months in the other location. I don't remember exactly.
Wendy,
All right. Do you remember what
Wendy.
year you moved into the
Wendy, are you going to take the shortcut? Which is not a shortcut.
Trescott address?
We moved into the Trescott address. Maybe, I don't remember exactly what year. Probably,
What?
it would have been 2008 or 2009. It was before my older son was born.
That
And
seems
you were
odd.
living there he was living there in 2014 when this murder occurred, correct?
He was living there in 2014.
And you were no longer living there.
I stopped living there
I'm
in
so excited.
2012.
I'm so excited. We're going to get to hear her retell all of her best stories, aka the TV repairman, how she ended up showing up at Trescott, the Bullet Bourbon, all the classics, dude. Awesome. All the Wendi classics.
In 2012, was there a separation first before a divorce, or
Yes, there was a separation,
when was the separation effective?
September 2012.
And whose decision was it to separate?
It was my decision.
And was part of the reason
I don't know.
for the separation differing views on how your children should be raised within the Jewish faith?
I mean, that's certainly
Isn't that,
part of it.
I mean,
but
isn't it like that with people when they get divorced though, right? I would imagine like they ask one person whose decision was it? It was mine. They ask the other one whose decision was it? It was mine. I just feel like that's probably how it goes, but of course in this case, we can't hear from the victim what he would say, but any of y'all with divorce experience, let me know.
not really a central decision. It was more just our relationship overall. I mean, Danny certainly wasn't, we were on different pages when it came to religion, but I wouldn't say that was.
And that's what I'm specifically inquiring about, was that part of it? So I think your answer is yes, that was part of it.
Sure.
Okay, you are both Jewish, correct?
Yes,
All right, and both of you did agree to raise the children within the Jewish faith? Is
we
that
did.
correct?
And we have.
Okay, so what were the differences between the two?
Oh,
of you in
that's
that
fucked up.
front?
She
Probably
said we did and we have. Now, just for anyone who's newer to the case, remember, Donna had threatened to like enroll the boys in like Catholic school or like Christian school, or it was like a Christian summer camp or whatever. Again, just to piss Dan off. Said like we're going to convert them or whatever. And then the other thing is, of course, there's always the Hitler youth outfits. Wanted to dress the boys up in Hitler youth outfits. So when you consider that, A, this family is also Jewish, and B, Wendi's like, yeah, we raised blah. It's like there was a lot of issues surrounding. But I mean, really, you have to think, right? Donna and Wendi it seems like what would go on is they would see whatever Dan was what was important to him, right? He was passionate about, was important to him. And like, that's the thing they would target. And it didn't matter if it happened to be the same thing that they are, which is Jewish, right? Didn't matter. It's like, it could have been whatever the thing it was, but it's like it's just wild to think that like their desire to punish him was greater even than considering that like you're essentially being offensive to your own ancestors, right? And your own religion. And anyway, and also there's a lot of hypocrisy there. Okay, let's keep watching.
Of keeping kosher. So I don't keep kosher, and Danny did. And that became difficult to do in Tallahassee and difficult to do with differing beliefs around that.
How is that
Can you
difficult?
explain for the jurors?
How is
what
that
keeping
difficult in
kosher
Tallahassee?
means?
Whatever.
Sure. It's a separation of milk from meat. So you couldn't have a
So
cheese.
what's interesting, this did not come out in Charlie's trial. They did not talk about this in Charlie's trial. So this is a new line of questioning.
For example, right? You couldn't have milk with a meat product. And the meat has to be killed in a ritual specific way that's been blessed by a rabbi. And you're not supposed to eat shellfish of any kind. So no seafood. There's a lot more rules, but those are just some high level ones.
All right. And was it very important to your husband that the children be raised on a kosher diet?
It was, yes.
All right. And that was something that was not important to you.
It's not a question of it not being important to me. It just started to supersede other things that are important, like love and trust.
Oh my God, what
Okay,
the fuck,
did that-
Wendy? What the actual fuck? Y'all? Huh? Pardon? Come again? Wow. Again, all this was not, this was not gone. They didn't go into this in Charlie's trial. Wow. Wow. I don't know why the diet would supersede things like love and trust, but that's what Wendy's going to tell us when she comes back from the spinning wheel situation. Come on, Wendi. Let me do this because this tends to help if I Unshare, reshare. Yep.
It's not a question of it not being important to me. It just started to supersede other things that are important, like love and trust.
What the fuck?
Okay. Did that diet seem impractical?
George is like, okay. I don't know what to do with that weird ass answer.
To you?
Wow.
At times it was complicated. I mean, there was one particular time I had taken the boys to a picnic for one of my clients for one of her children. And my older son had pizza, and Danny was very, very upset about this. He was maybe 1 at the time, but it was pizza that wasn't kosher. And so that became.
I'm sorry, but can a 1-year-old can't eat pizza? A 1-year-old can't eat pizza? I'm pretty sure they would choke on that and die. Right? Guys, let me know. I mean, I'm like, I don't think a 1-year-old can eat pizza. Aren't they still eating baby food? I'm pretty sure. Okay.
That became challenging.
All right. So this was something that sort of came up as an issue during the course of the marriage.
It did.
All right. And other things as well. I don't mean to suggest that it was based solely on the children's diets, but that was something that is going to come up later. And I wanted to make sure the jurors understood what was meant by kosher diet. All right. Did you move out of the marital home when you separated?
I did.
And where did you go to live when you left the marital home?
I rented a house, and I went to that house.
All right. Was that at the Aqua Ridge residence?
Yes, it was.
Does 3303 Aqua Ridge sound right?
That sounds right.
Okay. And that location is here in Leon County,
Where
right?
she was
It is.
living during the
As
murder.
well as the Trescott residence.
They're both in Leon County.
About how far apart are those two residences?
I think it used to take about 15, 20 minutes to drive, depending on traffic.
No,
How
just
long
say it.
after
Just say it. It takes less time if you take the cut through, right, Wendy?
you moved out of the home did you file for divorce?
I actually don't remember the answer to that. I'm assuming I would have filed for divorce right away.
Within a month sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. I'm going to show you Exhibit 59 and ask you to take a look at the exhibit.
Exhibit 59 coming right up.
Read that.
Okay. So this is the first time you've ever seen this exhibit?
It's the first time I remember. It's
All right,
very
I'll just
big.
Take a look and kind of just thumb through it. Again,
Oh,
don't
I wonder what it is.
familiarize yourself with every page.
Look at her face.
It's
My question is, Adelson, you can look through it as much as needed to answer
Well, that
this
was
question.
She had a question. What was your
it's
question?
just, it looks like it's about 800 pages long. So you want me to
I want you to look through it as much as is needed to answer the following question. Does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy of your divorce file?
Oh, fuck.
from the front page, sure.
Okay.
Oh, fuck.
Do you have, I mean, thumb through it a little bit. And just
800 pages. And she's like, I don't know what it is. Georgia, boss move. That was a boss. Georgia just put, dude. Let's watch that again. No wonder. Look at, oh my God. Wait, hold on. Her face. Her face, though. Oh my God. Georgia. Wow.
She had a question. What was your
It's
question?
just, it
I
looks
did
like
not go back far enough. Okay. Ma'am, on the morning of your ex-husband's murder, why were you in the right? Twiz, that's freaking hilarious, right? Oh my God, I love it. That's it. That's the question. That's the question right there. Why were you not in Vietnam? You could have been eating pho. Literally, that's what I every time we talk about Vietnam, literally, I'm thinking about pho as well in the background. I'm like, oh my God, they could have had so much pho. Nah. Sorry. They could have had so much fun not being in prison and whatnot, you know?
familiarize yourself with every page.
Okay. Her face, though.
it's,
My question is, Adelson, you can look through it as much as needed to answer
Well, that
this
was
question.
She had a question. What was your
it's
question?
just, it looks like it's about 800 pages long. So you want me to
I want you to look through it as much as is needed to answer the following question. Does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy of your divorce file?
I mean, from the front page, sure.
Okay. Do you have,
Oh
I mean,
my
thumb through it
God.
a little bit and just see if there's any reason to dispute
You
that
think
that's
that they
the complete
would
divorce file
fabricate
from
that,
the clerk's office.
Wendi?
It's certified.
Oh
If you
my
want to
God.
take a look at the certification.
Oh my God. 800 fucking pages. Jesus Christ.
Thank you.
That seems like a lot.
So I want you to take a look, if you would, at the petition that is on States Exhibit 59, pages 1 through 5.
The one right on top?
It seems like she was not
So
expecting
all the pages
this.
should be numbered through, so I'm referring to 1 through 5 on the bottom right corner there.
Mhm.
Okay, and that was your petition for divorce, correct?
Yes.
And so this was, would you agree that this was a contentious divorce?
800 pages.
I think it was made much more difficult by Danny, who didn't want to get
Fucking
divorced, but sure, we can call it
what?
contentious.
Not what we would
Oh,
classify
my
as an
God.
amicable divorce. You hear about those.
No, it would be not an amicable
Oh my
divorce.
All
God.
right. And part of
Wow.
what you were seeking
Wow.
in your divorce in these
Wow.
documents in front of you was permission from the court to move with your children to South Florida. Is
Bam.
that correct?
There it is.
That was part of the overall divorce
No.
proceedings.
All right. And specifically on pages 43 through 50, there's a petition to include a request to be allowed to relocate with minor children. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow.
And why were you seeking to move to South Florida?
I was seeking a place that would be stable and permanent for the kids and me. Danny never planned on staying in Tallahassee. It was just a question of time before he moved to New
Oh
York.
my God. This really is insane. There's so much here. So now she's trying to make it seem like she was going to move with Dan, but like the reason you're divorcing is so you can move. So that doesn't make any sense, first of all. Second of all, for anyone who missed it, in the crazy emails that Donna sends to Wendi, which we've covered a while ago, we learned that Donna's expectation and plan for Wendi was for Wendi and the kids to move back in with the family home, like with Donna, to move back in with Donna. Donna's like, I've got a room all ready for the boys. And I was like, oh my God. And she even uses language like for them to move back home. And I was like, huh? You're what? So it's even more specific. It's not just move back to Miami or move back to where it's move into the house with them, the parents. I don't think that Harvey really cared, but Donna, wow, though.
To be with his girlfriend or had dreams of being at Harvard. So Tallahassee was just a temporary stopping point. I wanted a place that was permanent for us where we had family support.
And why did South Florida seem like a place of permanence to you?
Right. I mean, because we had family support, because I work in immigration, there were a lot of career opportunities for me there.
Are you from South Florida?
Right.
I am.
The career
And when
opportunities.
you say family support, what family resided there?
My mother, father, and brother.
Jail boys.
Was the relocation to South Florida the most important part of your divorce?
No.
Was it your most non-negotiable term?
It was. No, that's a
But it was
lie.
very important to you?
Oh my God.
I
I'm
went.
sorry. That's a lie. It's literally, it's in the documents. It's in the paperwork. That is literally the language being used. It was a non-negotiable. She's lying.
It was very important to me.
Was it very important to your mother?
She was
Yes.
much more looking forward to having her daughter and her grandchildren home. Yeah.
All right. If you would take a look for me at page 46, paragraph E. Just read that to yourself and let me know when you've had an opportunity.
Just read it to yourself, Wendi.
I read the first paragraph by E. Do you want me to read the second one?
Yes, please.
I bet this is the one, that motion that was filed that she lost right before they decided to kill him. Motion for relocation or whatever. I bet that's what this is. And it was denied with or dismissed with prejudice, which means they can't bring it again. I bet that's because that was a whole thing.
And in those paragraphs,
That's
Ms. Adelson, are you alleging that Mr. Markel has created a hostile work environment for you at the Florida State University College of Law?
He did during a period of time.
All right, and was disparaging you to your colleagues?
Didn't even mention
And
that verbally.
if you'll take a look at pages beginning on 79, the document beginning on 79,
Ma'am, you have to answer out loud for the court reporter.
and the question is this Mr. Markel's 23-page response to your motion to relocate?
You're asking me, is this his?
His response to your motion to relocate?
Yes, it looks like it.
All right, it's quite verbose. Would you agree with that?
I imagine it is. At some point, Danny fired or alienated all of his attorneys and started doing his own legal work. So
Fair to say he was adamantly opposed to you taking his kids to South Florida.
yes, he shared all of that here, which is different than the conversations we had. But
That's what he filed.
what he filed is what the judge sanctioned him for.
All
Yes.
right. And in that
Oh my
filing,
God.
I'm specifically referencing to page 82 where Markel states that the sole stated reason the wife seeks to relocate with the party's minor children is so she can be closer to her parents.
Here it is.
My understanding is you don't agree that's why you wanted to move,
It wasn't the sole reason why I wanted to move.
but you do agree it was a reason.
It was absolutely a reason. I wanted to create some stability for my kids, and having family around helps have a more stable environment.
Is it fair to say that your mother, Donna
I'm
Adelson,
sorry,
was-
but not when it's this family. I think that has become quite clear.
was following this divorce?
I mean, are you going to bring the children over to the jail or to the prison? I mean, you're going to have to go to different states because, like, right now, just as it is, right? Charlie's in one state and your mom's in a different state, and just insane stability, she says.
Divorce proceedings pretty closely.
She was definitely being a little bit over involved. Yeah,
She was
Yeah,
pretty
that's-
invested in your
That's an
personal
understatement.
life. Is that fair to say?
she is one of those moms. Yes.
All right. And we
Oh
talked
my
about your
God.
mom, Donna Adelson. Who's your father?
What is my father's name?
Mm-hmm.
Harvey Adelson.
And where do Donna and Harvey live currently?
They live in Miami.
All right. And are you still very close with your parents?
I am.
All right. And do you still live in close proximity to your parents?
I live about a 15-minute drive away.
And
Oh my God.
where did they live at the time that Dan Markel was killed?
They lived in Coral Springs, Florida.
And were you close with your mom back around the time that you were living in Tallahassee?
I was.
And did she have a close relationship with your children as well?
She did.
Are your parents employed?
Right now, they are both retired.
What about back in 2014?
In 2014, they were both employed.
How were they employed then?
Then my father had a dental practice, and my mom was managing his practice.
What's the name of the dental practice?
Dr. Harvey Adelson, DDS.
All right. Does Adelson Institute ring a bell as well?
Yes.
And do you know whether the practice there was successful, meaning lucrative?
At one point, it was, and
What
not
about between
anymore.
what about between 2013 and 2016? Was it lucrative at that time?
Between 2013 and 2016, it was definitely, the business was doing better than it did after that point when the social media barrage happened.
Oh my
Referring to
God.
this case?
Stop
Absolutely.
it.
Okay. But previous to the
Wow.
murder, the Adelson Institute was earning approximately $2 million
Wow.
in profit each year.
I have no idea what it was earning. I haven't the slightest idea, but
Do you know
That is
whether
a
your
large amount.
parents had other investments other than their work at the Adelson Institute?
I don't know.
You don't know if they own any properties?
I know now that they own properties, but I didn't then.
Okay. And do you know now that they owned properties then?
I actually don't know when they acquired the properties, so
This
I
is-
don't know.
This
All right,
is
what-
fucking weird as fuck. Like, what?
Was your divorce impacting your family financially? So this is prior to the murder and the
It was
social
certainly
media.
impacting me financially, but I don't think it was impacting the rest of my family.
All right. How many lawyers did you have in your divorce?
I had one, and then Danny accused her of ethical violations and
Wow.
stealing money, and so I had to hire a new attorney. I
Wow.
think he had 3 or 4.
No, I was talking about you. So you had two.
I had one, and then I had to get another. Yes,
All right. And who paid for those two
Her
attorneys?
mom.
I did.
No. Nope. Lies. No. Donna paid for them. It's in the emails. Donna actually threatens Wendi by saying, I'll stop paying for your attorney if you don't do whatever the fuck Donna wanted her to do. She's like, I'll stop paying for your attorney. Wow.
Did your mom retire from the dental practice during the time of your divorce to facilitate her spending more time with the children?
No, she didn't retire from the dental practice. She did help me during the divorce and help me with the kids. They were very small, but she didn't retire. She just worked for my dad, so it was okay if she
Now, remember, there's a reason that matters, right? Because the checks that Katie Magbanua was receiving from the dental practice were signed by Donna Adelson, right? So in order to try to make it look somewhat legitimate for their plan, then they have to try to make it seem like Donna was still working for the place, for the dental practice. Because Donna was signing the checks for Katie, and Katie didn't work there, but they're trying to make, in other words, like the money that they used to pay for this freaking hit job, right? There's really, honestly, a lot here that could have probably been done with like tax fraud and all kinds of shit, because they were using their business money and trying to make it look like a business expense as if she was an employee, but really they were paying for a murder via the business account. And so Donna was signing the checks. Isn't that wild?
took a leave of absence here and there.
All right. Did you discuss your marital problems and the resulting legal issues with your mother?
I'm sure I did.
Is it fair to say your mother is a controlling person?
I think my mom is and was very invested in my life. I don't think of her as a controlling person.
Is it fair to say around the time of your divorce that your mom did not like Dan Markel?
I think that's fair to say. I think she was very disappointed by the way he treated me.
In fact, she despised him, didn't she?
I can't speak to how my mom felt or whether she despised him. I think she was very disappointed.
She sent you some emails to indicate her feelings about Dan Markel around that time, didn't she?
She did.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's
The
Exhibit 60.
emails. These are the emails I was just referencing. Oh my God. Yes, she was, y'all. These emails are unhinged. Wow. I don't think any of this didn't come in Charlie's trial.
Authenticate them.
I can authenticate them.
All right. So the donnaharvey@gmail.com is your parents' shared email address. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But these emails were coming from your mother based on the context. Is that right? Not your dad.
I imagine they probably represented both of their feelings. They've been
Well,
married
wow.
51 years, so
Oh,
sometimes
stop.
my mom speaks for my dad.
Well, I believe that. Fucking hell.
All right. So there's one, I believe it's on top there, dated May 3rd, 2013. Was that about 3 months before your divorce was finalized?
My memory is that our divorce was finalized in June 2013. So
Okay.
wouldn't that just be 1 month before?
I had July 31st. So
Okay.
whatever is your memories.
So, okay, this was May and our divorce was finalized in July then.
What? What? Weird.
Just want to talk a little bit about the emails that are in front of you there. So on that first email dated May 3rd, 2013, page 1 of 5, in the second real paragraph, does your mother indicate that the most important
Objection.
part of your divorce is
Hold
Objection.
on,
relocation?
hold on a second, Ms. Kappelman.
I don't believe this item is in evidence, Your Honor.
The items have not been admitted into evidence at this point, Ms. Kappelman.
Correct.
All right, so I don't want you reading from them if they haven't been admitted into evidence.
All right, Ms. Adelson, did your mother indicate to you that to her the most important part of your divorce is
Objection, Your Honor,
relocation?
objection.
That's sustained.
Okay, Judge, at this time, I would ask to approach.
Sidebar, the witness.
Sidebar.
Sidebar. Sidebar. And he's going to sit there doing that thing. Are the emails coming in? Are the emails coming out?
Yourself, and then Ms. Kappelman asks you.
So basically, they got it. She's just got to admit these emails into evidence. Now, technically, they're hearsay, right? So she's probably been arguing over there at the bench that they're not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. But I feel like they kind of are. Let's see what happens.
All right, Ms. Adelson, what was the most important
No,
part?
it could have been state. She could have argued state of mind. She could have argued maybe she went with state of mind. I'm just trying to think of what exception she would use. Yeah, it might have been state of mind or present sense impression, maybe.
Part of your divorce to your mother?
You're asking in reference to the email or not in reference to the email?
Not in reference to the email.
So just in general, what for
Yes.
her, it was probably for me to be safe and be in a stable situation with the boys.
Okay, would it refresh your recollection to take a look at the emails in front of the State's Exhibit,
there you
which
go.
are marked as State's Exhibit 63?
If I look at it, she's saying
Hold on
here,
a second.
Oh my
Just
God.
Review it,
Just,
okay?
If you'd read to yourself about the first half of that second real paragraph.
Just review it to yourself, and then Ms. Kappelman
Really,
asks you
yeah, she's using it to refresh her recollection. Perfect.
other
Good
questions.
job. Good job, Georgia. Hi, Kane. Welcome back again. We've got some Wendi on the stand.
All right, does that refresh your recollection about
crazy.
what your mother felt was the most important non-negotiable term of your divorce?
it does.
Okay, and what was that?
That was relocation.
So think about it, guys. We've talked a lot about this, right? So again, this is Katie's trial, the middle lady. And what are we hearing about? We're hearing about, like, listen to that question right there. I'll back it up. What was your mother's most important non-negotiable for your divorce? Do you see how it's linking them up? I mean, Brilliant. Oh, spinny wheel. Man, bam.
All right. Does that refresh your recollection about what your mother felt was the most important non-negotiable term of your divorce?
It does.
Okay,
Brilliant.
and what was that?
That was relocation.
Aha.
And did your mother,
You tried to lie about
I think
that.
you said she was very unhappy with him. Did you agree that she despised him?
I can't speak to whether my mom despised him or didn't. She was very, very disappointed with the way he treated me.
Okay. And did you ever call him names?
I don't remember her calling him names.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at the emails for that?
I'm happy to.
Okay. If you'll take a look at
So what's going on here?
page 1
Is
about
Wendy's just going to get punished? Because literally, I read those emails. Actually, I think I read them twice, like on live streams. Everything that she's being asked in these questions are in the emails. Like, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And every time that she's going to be more difficult, she's going to say, "Okay, take a look." And then it's just this is how you destroy them. This is how you destroy the witness. And it's actually a whole thing where eventually, typically what will happen is they will learn that literally they've got the receipts for all your, previous statements that are, in this case, awful, damning, show the entire reason for this entire thing. And you can either just sit there and lie and get brutally, okay, take a look at your statement, blah, blah, right? Or you can just say yes, 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 and get it over with quicker. Either way, it's you're going to be decimated on the stand. But anyway, she's not learned her lesson yet. And again, it's just so funny too, because she's an attorney and
halfway down. Just read those few sentences there, and then I will draw your attention to page 2 when you're ready. Actually, you know what? For refreshing purposes, I'm going to approach with my copy. I'm just going to kind of draw your attention to the items highlighted in green. If you'll just look at those to yourself and then flip through and look for those items highlighted.
Okay. Do you want me to go through the whole thing?
No, go through and just to yourself with the items.
It's a lot to expect. I don't want to expect too much.
Okay.
Did your mom ever refer to your husband as an asshole,
Yes.
a bully,
Yes.
a zealot,
A religious zealot. Yes.
a jackass,
Yes.
a religious extremist?
Yes.
What about gibbers? She calls him gibbers?
Yeah, Tibbers is not a bad name. It was a silly name that I came up with during a period of time when I felt incredibly terrorized by Danny. And so it was a word that I would use to kind of
no,
make him seem less scary.
it's
Is it fair
derogatory.
to say that it was a derogatory term?
Gross.
That's what you
That's
came up with.
hilarious. I said derogatory and then Georgia said derogatory. That's funny. Wow.
That directly in relation to him terrorizing you.
I know.
I did. It was
I
the
know,
way to take the
Twiz.
steam out of a situation I found scary. I wouldn't say it was derogatory. I just think it was.
And
a
when you say
silly-
scary, are you alleging physical abuse?
I'm not alleging physical abuse.
All right.
I know. It's
What types of things did your mother suggest that you could do to try to coerce or
y'all were getting to the Hitler Youth outfits. Make her say it, Georgia. Make her fucking say it. Make Wendi say it. Make her say it.
acquire the ability to relocate your kids to Miami?
She suggested that I could change the religion
Of who?
of my children
Here we
And
go.
why would that
We're getting there.
affect the relocation effort?
because religion was so important to Danny that would be a real hot button thing.
Okay.
Oh,
And
God.
did she ever suggest that you could bribe your husband to allow the relocation?
She did.
And how much money did she suggest that she and the family would be willing to put up?
$1
for
million.
such a bribe?
So I just saw the bribe reference, but I didn't see the amount. If you want to
I
show me.
will refresh you on
Joking.
that.
Wendy. It's $1 million. I know it.
I'm
Oh my
just going to
God.
Find it myself.
So for anyone who doesn't know this, they were going to bribe him $1 million.
Overruled.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Oh, I think that's actually.
To bribe Dan Markel to let.
Oh no, that is Georgia. Okay.
They said that they would go as high as $1 million, which would be 333,000 each.
And who are the each?
My mom, my dad, and Charlie.
Oh,
Did Charlie, you mentioned he also lived in South Florida. Was he employed at the family dental practice?
He worked there sometimes.
And what type of work did he do?
He is a periodontist, so he would sometimes do.
Scott, thank you for that. She calls her. I mean, she called. You know, oh my God, the pause. She calls herself an attorney, right? And I feel like other people call her an attorney, but I appreciate this distinction because while I still feel like calling her a scholar is probably giving her way more credit than she deserves. In other words, I think the distinction that you're making here is like she's not licensed to practice law, as in like, you know, like the difference between a lawyer and an attorney. So a lawyer, you know, can practice law like in trial, like in, you know, and for example, like if you're just an attorney, you can just be like helping people like sign contracts and stuff like that, but you aren't licensed to come before a judge and practice law in the court of law, if that makes sense. Again, legal scholar still sounds too good for her, but I appreciate that distinction. Awesome. Welcome back.
Plants or surgery for people.
Is she? It's amazing because you would never know it. I mean, she was very confused at the beginning of her testimony about her derivative use immunity. And because initially she thought it meant that they couldn't prosecute her. That was a whole thing. Anyway, it's like, Wendi. Keen, have you been sick too?
Did your motion for relocation get granted or denied by the court?
Denied with prejudice. With
You were
prejudice.
not legally permitted to move to Miami?
No.
Denied with prejudice.
Did you have an alternative? You mentioned previously that there was a hostile work environment at Florida State University as a result of your husband. Or your ex-husband at this point, was the failure to be able to relocate, did that cause you to remain in that environment?
It did.
For how long?
I don't remember the date that the petition to relocate was denied. If you could show me the binder, I could find the date.
And
Go
I'll
back
draw
to
you to
Go back to the 800-page
pages
binder.
262 and 263.
In the binder.
Have you been sick? Everybody's been fucking sick, man. So you look at that, y'all. Hold on. Look at that. Look at that binder. Oh my God, that pause. Hold on. Look at this. 800 pages. That's her divorce filing. Amazing. I can't even wrap my fucking head around that. Like, how do you even put that? Okay, first of all, where do you even buy that size of a binder? Like, I don't even know what that is. What is that, like 8 inches? Wild. How much does it weigh? Is there something wrong with Twiz's toes? Twizzle toes. She does. She absolutely does. Wow. Is that yuppie? You've been sick?
Okay, so the order was on June. No.
The answer is yes, Wendi. Just say yes and move on. Admit defeat.
It was June 20th, 2013. So I was still working at the law school through July 2014. So I stayed for 1 more year.
Okay. And it was subsequent to his death that you were able to find new employment that was in a less hostile work environment. Is that accurate?
I mean, eventually after his death, I
Oh
found
my
new employment.
God.
It took me a little while.
Okay.
Oh, you
How long
moved
did you
to-
stay in
okay.
Tallahassee after your husband was killed?
That's good.
Ex-husband, sorry.
Don't worry, guys. StreamYard just did that thing. Luckily this was already paused. I was just saying, she moved the day after Dan's memorial. Like the day after Dan's memorial, she moved to South Florida, but she's trying to say a couple of days.
And
Ugh.
after I had asked the police for protection at the funeral or in my home
Protection?
and they refused, I decided to just go for a couple of days and spend a few days away from Tallahassee. And then this case hit CNN and hit
Wow. Let's appreciate something real quick. You know how you like when people are lying and then they give this like really long answer? Like also, she's not been like, this is not how she's been answering other questions. Like let me back it up because we want to hear the question and the answer. Wow.
Okay. How long did you stay in Tallahassee after your husband was killed?
How long did you stay in Tallahassee after your husband was killed?
Ex-husband.
The actual answer is 1 day after the memorial.
I'm sorry.
stayed a couple of days. And then after I had asked the police for protection at the funeral or in my home and they refused,
What the
I
fuck?
decided to just go for
Wow.
a couple of days and spend a few days away from Tallahassee. And then this case hit CNN
Oh my
and
God.
hit the media. And I
So
didn't
I don't
feel
mean to
safe.
interrupt you, but the question was, how long did you stay in Tallahassee after your husband was killed?
Non-responsive is what it is.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kappelman. I stayed for a few days.
Thank you. All right. So
Ice.
how did your mom
Get it,
take the
Georgia.
news that
Get it.
you were not going to be able to relocate?
She was very upset.
Pausing this real quick to quote Wendi back to herself.
I'm usually a lot more fun.
I'm usually a lot more fun. In case you're like, what's that background noise? That's from her interrogation. So that's her saying I'm usually a lot more fun. Sorry. Dude. Wow. She's so obstinate.
1 moment, please.
Wow. Do you always cut through Trescott, Wendi? Tell us about the shortcut. Oh my God. Make her sit there and sweat.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about the litigation that continued after your divorce was final. Was there a motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement and hold Dan Markel in contempt of court filed by you?
Yes.
Hi, Tom.
And a few months later,
Woo!
did
Party
he
Central.
respond with a counter motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement's final provisions, alleging some violations that he said you made on the marital settlement agreement?
Yes.
And these filings are pretty venomous. Is that a fair characterization?
Not on my part.
Well, on both
Oh
your-
my God, stop it. I knew she was going to say that. Dude, look at the, every time I pause it, it's great. Look at that face. Wow, that's the face of a psycho, y'all. I'm not diagnosing anybody, but look at the face. Like, you know what I mean? Wow. Wow. This is on another level of like, because here's the thing, right? When people have a divorce, it's like normal to be like, yeah, we both were acting whatever, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it strains credulity if people have been through a divorce and they're like, yeah, literally, I was a sweet angel. I did everything, blah, blah. And it was like, because like, that's never how divorces go down from everything that I've heard. People who practice family law will tell you it is like a bloodbath with every single one. And not only that, but their divorce binder is 800 pages. So there's that as well. But this again, not on my part, right? She's said similar things already about this. Wow.
your parts, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Wow.
And he accuses you of various things.
What's
lying
going on
about
with
your
your toe?
financial affidavit?
Come on, we need to sort this out. What is going on with Twiz's toes? Is this an inside joke or like, total psycho? Yep. Her eyes are something's going on there. I mean, her eyes are always like that. It's just that, the thing is you can see her straight on, obviously. In the interrogation, you don't ever see this. You really get a better idea as to like her brain, I feel like, with this shot.
It's like that. Would you agree?
He does make those accusations. They were completely baseless, but yes.
Oh my God, Wendy.
And
Are you wearing sandals, Twiz? Are you wearing sandals or what?
let's see.
You have like boots?
Oh, did in the pleadings, is the tennis racket mentioned as something to fight over? And I can draw your attention to that page.
Oh my God.
I imagine it could have been. You can draw my attention if you like, and I
The
can.
tennis racket. Why is he wearing flip-flops though? I will say, if you didn't know these exist, I'm wearing them right now. They make socks that are like toe socks, like it's like like mittens versus gloves, right? They make socks that are like the glove version, but for your feet. And so I happen to love those. I'm wearing some right now. So like if you are one of those people that wants to transition from like flip-flops, or like for me it's chacos that I wear, like for example yesterday, because yesterday was in the 70s, as some of you guys have heard me talk about, and then today it got back down into the 30s. So like, I was wearing my sandals yesterday, but then as it started to get cooler, there's like that transition, right? So it was like, I'm not going to put my boots on, right? So I just wear my socks, right? Like my little five toe socks. I don't know how you call them. They're like toe socks. And then you can wear them under your sandals or in your boots. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with flip-flops. Okay, so you just prefer the flip-flops. But yeah, if you have these types of socks, then you can wear them with the flip-flops, and then your toesies won't get as cold. I think we can probably all guess what that is. Because you don't want, it's important to not get frostbite. You know what I mean? There we go. See? Check it out. Beautiful. Scott, remind me where you're joining us from. Are you in? Why do I feel like you're another Oregonian? I could be wrong. YouTube.
Some of the nonsense that we argued over, sure.
Okay, let me back this up because this is important. This tennis racket.
And I can draw your attention to that page in line if you need it.
I imagine it could have been. You can draw my attention if you like, and I can confirm.
Okay, but no reason to
Oh,
argue
okay.
about the fact that the
Yeah,
tennis
okay.
racket is mentioned specifically in your divorce documents.
That sounds like some of the nonsense that we argued over, sure.
Okay.
My understanding
And-
British Columbia, Canada, potentially. That's why you need your toes. You need all your toes. How are you going to count to 20?
Was there a motion? I want to draw your attention specifically to this motion. It's on page 441 of that document in front of you.
I have questions about that binder.
This motion was filed by Dan Markel on March 26th of 2014, so shortly before his death.
I see it.
Okay, what was that motion?
Former husband's counter motion for enforcement of MSA on parenting issues and motion for contempt and sanctions.
And in that
Sanctions!
motion,
Woo!
he alleged that you were violating the marital settlement agreement in a variety of ways.
Yes, it looks like you did.
I do.
Including failing to facilitate communication between he and the boys, failing to keep him informed of where his kids are, failure to communicate about
so remember, keep this in mind, guys. Remember what Wendi said? That she didn't do anything wrong, that she was a perfect angel, that blah, blah. And like, this is literally listing all the things that she did. Okay. So if that's one thing. Second thing, I would say, I love sandals. Like for me, it's chacos, which are like hiking sandals. So like, I totally get it. Like I every summer, it's like I'm like, I'm going to wear them as long as possible, which is again, where the socks come in, because it's like, I always like try to like hold out. Right. So it's like, I'm always torn. Cause like, I love wearing the sandals, but at the same time, like I'm really cold natured and I'm like always cold, and my toes can't take it. So that's where that's where I get bring the socks in. They're like the Smart Wool kind. They're super, super soft and awesome. Welcome. I think we have a new squirrel friend here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Say your entire family went to prison over the murder of her ex-husband, but she had nothing to do with it. Something. Yep, I know. Strains credulity, doesn't it? Okay, you're 5 hours from Moscow. So you're in Idaho then, I guess, right? I don't really know. I'm trying to think. Or no, I guess Idaho. Right. You could still be in Canada and 5 hours could be over the border. My world geography is better than my US geography, by the way, people. I know. And the thing is now they're like teenagers, right? And it's sad because, you know, they're going to have nobody left and they're going to figure out what's happening, right? It's like the whole family, except for maybe Harvey. Okay, cool. Yeah, it really, you know, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Charlie says it best in the jail calls to Donna. There's a couple moments in there, actually I have them timestamped. There's like one or two specifically where Charlie literally, I paused the live stream to say, it's a shame that he's incarcerated, because literally what Charlie just said in like a couple sentences during one of those jail phone calls could have been a closing argument or an opening statement for the prosecution if he wasn't incarcerated to convict Wendi. Literally, it was like perfection, compelling. It summed it all up. It couldn't have been said any better. And that's Charlie. I mean, saying that about Wendi. And he even says, like, if I were on the jury, I would convict. He said, based off of the whole thing about her showing up at Trescott, he's like, that alone, he's like, if I was on the jury, yeah, I would convict. And he's talking about convicting her.
Parenting decisions like the kids' schooling,
That's
diet,
we're in the country,
and
the same country
extracurricular
as Markel.
activities, things like that.
Yes, that looks right.
We have a number of
And
Canadian
was he, as
girlfriends
part of this
across.
motion, seeking to enjoin you from allowing your mother to have time with the children that was unsupervised by another adult?
I am not seeing that right now, but I can continue reading through
Okay,
it.
take your time.
Just take your time. It's only 800 pages.
Actually, oh wait, still going.
Is this a question that you need refreshing on? Did your husband make these allegations? You don't have an independent recollection of that?
I don't have an independent recollection.
Okay.
I made a lot of allegations that weren't true, so I need
All
to
right.
look through to figure out what
Oh
ones we're
my
talking about.
God, Wendi, why?
Okay, I see it. I see what you're referencing.
All right, so in that filing, Dan Markel alleges that your mother is disparaging him to the children, correct?
That is correct.
And he was seeking a court order saying she couldn't have contact with the kids unless there was another adult present, correct?
I see that here. I don't think I took it seriously at the time, so it didn't really lodge in my memory.
Did
But
your mom take it seriously?
No.
Was it ever ruled on?
I don't know. If it were, it should be here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously,
No, it's not.
Wendi.
It was scheduled to be ruled on in August of
I
2020.
mean, this is what I'm talking about, though. Like, how do you not know? Like, A, this is your divorce filing. 2, you're a whatever the fuck legal scholar situation. Like, it just.
14, right?
I don't know. I don't know when it was scheduled for. I do know that nobody took it very seriously.
Okay, so your mom wasn't worried about that motion being granted. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your brother. You can just sort of close that binder and leave it in front of you if that's okay. How old is your brother, Charlie Adelson?
Sorry, the way that she's like, you can close the binder, but leave it up there because we're going to need it again. Oh, that was brilliant. That's like Georgia, you know, the prosecutor. That's like, oh man, that's going to sit up there. That binder's going to sit up there and it's going to be like hanging over her head. Oh, I just love it. Good job. Good job. Good job, Georgia. Now they're getting into the brother. Remember, at this point in time, Charlie has not been arrested yet. He may have just been arrested. I'll look it up and see because he was arrested in 2022. This trial is in 2022, so it's just a matter of which month.
He is 45.
Is he your older or younger brother?
I have 2 older brothers, so he is one of the 2 older
Well,
brothers.
one
Are
of
you
them is
closer to
estranged.
one more than the other?
Yes.
Which one are you closer
Yes,
to?
Charlie.
And has that always been the case or just since this case?
No, it's not since this case. I think when we were kids, I was probably closest to my oldest brother. And then after getting to be an adult myself around my 20s, I was probably closer to my middle brother.
Around the time of 2013 and 2014, were you closer to Charlie at that time?
I would say so.
All right. And Are you aware of any connection at any time between your brother Charlie and any gang members?
Oh,
Did your brother use
okay,
drugs?
sorry, I'm just going to clarify something. So Charlie was arrested on like in April of 2022. This trial was in May. So at this point, Charlie had just been arrested by FBI agents, and I have a sound clip for that.
The FBI!
There we go.
He did, yeah.
What type of drugs did he use?
Marijuana.
Okay, what else?
I don't know of anything else.
Okay.
Wow,
And do you know where he got the drugs from that he used?
I don't.
Was he a recreational marijuana user or was he a drug dealer?
I would say he was a recreational marijuana user.
Was this something he did every day or just occasionally?
I don't know how often. I don't know if it was every day, but I do know the pain of the last few years has led him to do some self-medicating.
Okay, but
Oh
I'm
my
really
God,
speaking of the
stop it,
time frame I should have
Wendy,
clarified,
stop.
2013 to 2014.
I don't know if he was using any drugs during that time.
What about the Xanax, though? The whole family seems to be, you know.
But you became aware of it subsequent to the incidents that we're here about today?
That's right.
Which I will
Are
say,
you aware that your brother,
obviously nothing wrong with Xanax, but like in the jail phone calls and in like, I think the wiretaps as well, you can tell that the way they're using Xanax is not the way it's supposed to be used. It's like, I mean, even with Katie Magbanua, it was like when she was nervous about the murder or whatever, it's like, Charlie's like, here, take this Xanax and she, you know, so you can fall asleep or whatever. I don't know. It's just, you know, it's a whole thing.
I think you testified you sometimes worked at the Adelson Institute. What did you mean by that? Where else does he work?
So he is a periodontist and he has kind of a traveling practice of sorts. So he would work
It's
in various
really
doctors' offices
unique.
throughout Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach counties. And so sometimes he would work from my dad's practice, but sometimes he would work from different offices. I don't know how often he worked at which one. I just know he worked.
He
at
didn't
various
ask you
offices.
that, Wendy. Weird answer right there. That was weird.
All right. So I asked you, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to change topics on you so much, but previously we were talking about your two brothers. Is your other brother, not Charlie, but your other brother, is he located here in Florida?
He is not.
Ooh,
All right, back in
tell us more about
2014,
Rob.
was he living in another state?
He lived in Gainesville for a while. I'm trying to remember in 2014 if he was in
So
Gainesville.
Rob,
I don't think
his
so.
strange brother, is expected to testify at Donna's trial. He has not been a part of any of these other trials. They haven't needed him yet. He's expected to testify for the state at Donna's trial. And one can only imagine at Wendy's trial, whenever it
I
happens.
think he was in another state.
All right. So been in another state.
He's in
throughout
New York.
the incidents we're here about today.
I believe so, yes.
All right, now back to what we were talking about with your brother Charlie's practice. So he travels around to different dentist offices and performs a specific service, like on a contract basis. All right, and are you aware that he does that type of work or offers a discount for that type of work if his customers pay in cash?
I'm not aware of that.
Are you aware of your brother
yeah.
carrying large amounts of cash?
He did sometimes carry more cash than I would, but not
Was
like
it
big sums
stapled?
of cash. No.
Did you observe the cash that he carried to be stapled together?
There
in half?
it is.
No, I never saw
Stapled,
staples.
moldy.
Has your brother ever been married?
No.
How would you describe the kind of lifestyle your brother was enjoying back around the time of these incidents, 2013, 2014?
He
Crazy.
lived a bachelor lifestyle, very different than mine. Would enjoy nice restaurants, had lots of girlfriends.
Not a lot of responsibilities.
Not a lot of responsibility.
A lot of girlfriends.
You say not a lot
A
of?
lot of different girlfriends.
Always a different girl. Yeah.
Who is Jerome Obed?
He is a person who used to live with my brother.
Do you know the time frame that he lived with your brother?
I remember I introduced him to his current wife, and that was maybe 20.
Wow.
So maybe during the period, I don't know how much. I can tell you he was living with them that year.
Wow. This is really crazy.
But I don't know for how long before or how long after they
Yeah.
lived together. They were friends though.
Oh, say,
I mean,
okay, so you can't.
staple it, put it in the washing machine, you know. Again, why not, you know, if they'd given it the full treatment with like the proper drying, like it, you know, chuck one of them balls in there, you know what they do, and like a dryer sheet, you know, set on a high. Then it would come out all fluffy, you know, give it the fluff effect. But stapled and moldy is just, you know, amazing.
Can't tell us whether he was living with your brother in the 2013, 2014 timeframe that we're here about.
I don't remember.
And is Mr. Obed also a doctor, a dentist?
He is a dermatologist.
Dermatology, thank you. All right, and your brother, we were talking about his lifestyle and the girlfriends. Does he also drive fancy cars,
He does.
including a Ferrari?
Yes.
All right. And were you aware of one of his girlfriends by the name of Katie Magbanua?
Yes.
Did you ever have the opportunity to meet that particular girlfriend?
Yes. We met maybe 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times? Do you recall what the occasions were?
There was one time we had dinner when I was in town, which is what I did every time I'd come to town and have dinner with my brother and a different girl. And then one time I went to the beach for an hour or so, and she and a friend of hers joined us.
Okay. And was there a third time?
I don't actually remember a third time.
All right. So was there anything special about this girlfriend in terms of her relationship with your brother? Did they seem closer or more serious?
It didn't seem serious.
Were you off put by Ms. Magbanua for any reason? Did she seem like different from the ordinary trail of women that came through his life?
She seemed perfectly nice.
Did you bond with her in a special way? Did you have a different type of relationship with her than you had with any of his other girlfriends?
No, I mean, if anything, I'd say I'd been closer to other girlfriends. I only met her twice.
All right. What about her ex, Sigfredo Garcia? Were you aware of him at all before
Alfredo.
this case? So you didn't even know she had an ex?
I knew she had an ex
Baby
because
daddy.
my brother once mentioned that he was dating a girl and she had an ex that seemed a little scary.
All
And
right.
I said, maybe you should stay away from that.
Yeah. And so the ex, did you have specific knowledge about why he was a little scary?
No.
And did Catherine Magbanua ever tell you anything that was specifically scary about him?
No.
Were you aware of your brother having any communications with the scary ex-husband?
No, only that my brother seemed a little scared of him, but I don't know that they talked or didn't talk.
So it would be surprising to you to learn that they had a relationship.
Very.
What about your ex-husband, Dan Markel? Did you ever know him to be involved with any type of drug activity or gangsters, anything like that?
No, Danny
That's so funny.
consulted on criminal law cases. So I do remember there being a case
Same picture.
involving Orthodox rabbis that were engaging in some very violent activity.
Wow.
And that had me concerned. But other than that, no.
Okay.
Interesting how she's trying
Not
to
in his
disparage
personal
the
life.
religion
No.
again.
Was your brother Charlie, or is your brother Charlie, protective of you?
He is, yeah,
Did you discuss your marital problems with him back during the time of 2013, 2014?
I did.
Is it fair to say that in the time frame leading up to the murder of your ex-husband that your brother did not like your ex?
I think it's fair to say. I mean, I also think it's fair to say he wasn't particularly concerned with it. He was leading his own life and not really focused on mine.
But your mom was really focused on yours.
My mom was
And
was
that's
focused
the
on
thing,
mine.
right? That's the whole thing. Why would Charlie care, right? That's the whole thing. And this is where you get back, Twiz, you phrased it perfectly the other day. This is where it gets back to the only way any of this makes sense is because of this lady sitting right here. You know, it's not going to affect Charlie either way, right? It's just.
Your mom was in the ear of your brother quite a bit, same as she was with you, right?
I don't know about how much she was in his ear or not.
Did your brother ever mention hiring a hitman to kill your ex-husband?
He never mentioned hiring a hitman. He told one bad off-color joke where he said he had bought me a TV when I got divorced and said it was a present and made a very bad joke in bad taste that it was cheaper than hiring a hitman.
And was
But no,
that,
He
I'm sorry,
made
I
that
forgot.
joke on a regular basis,
else were you saying?
Wendi.
I think that was it.
all right, was that a joke that your brother made one time or more than one time?
He has a tendency to repeat himself. So everything he says multiple times.
Do you know how many times he said it?
I have no idea, but definitely twice at least.
Everybody heard
And
that
so was
joke.
your understanding that he had not made any actual efforts to hire the hitman?
Yes,
But you did get a TV as a divorce present.
I did get a TV.
The other thing I will say that is interesting, thinking about the evidence against Wendi, is that the whole thing with the TV. So the TV, it's been established that the TV was code because in the wiretaps, right? It was in the PCAs that we covered, but you can also see it like on that exhibit that we saw from Charlie's trial the other day, like that. When they use the word TV and then they're trying to talk in code, like that, they know what it means, and it was referring to this crime. But beyond that, the thing about her TV, right, is that she describes the reason she needs the appointment for the Geek Squad, right, is because there's like a little chip or a little crack in it or whatever. One of the kids maybe broke it. It's not been there that long, blah, blah, blah. And like, we will hear it from Jeff, right? That completely disputes that. Like that it looks like I think he comes out and flat out says that like, there's no way a kid did this. It looks like an adult took something and smashed it, right? And so, because the kids were like 1 and 3 or something at the time, right? So the thing is that if an adult, aka Wendi, the only adult that lived there, smashed that TV on purpose so that she could have an excuse to make that appointment, just so she could have an alibi, that's pretty crucial, I think. She really did get a TV. She really did get a TV. Yep. And then they subsequently used it as this whole reason to to give her an alibi.
Was there a time when you went out to dinner with your brother after the murder where you vomited at the table? that happened. Just yes or no?
That's hilarious.
But would you like to know the context? It did happen.
Okay. And
oh my God, Wendi,
who was
stop.
present at that dinner?
Would you like to know the
Just my brother and
context?
me.
Okay. And that was kind of your first time out after this murder had occurred, right?
After it happened, I couldn't eat for several weeks, and then I was completely
Oh my
terrified to
God.
leave my house. So this was the first
Objection,
time I tried to
non-responsive.
leave the house and eat food, and that is how it ended up. I threw up.
Well, here's the thing, Len, like, how are you even alive, Wendi? Like, this is so dumb. I couldn't eat for like 2 months. Like, come on. Wow.
in a restaurant.
Yes, it was very embarrassing.
How long after the murder was that incident?
Amazing.
Probably about a month or so.
Was the dinner intended to be a celebration of the fact that your husband was murdered?
Absolutely not.
Did your brother refer to it as a celebration?
I highly doubt that.
Could that have been one of his jokes that was in bad taste?
He may have been celebrating the fact that I was willing to leave the house.
Right. Were you involved in the plot to kill your husband?
Absolutely not.
Did you have knowledge of the plot to kill your husband?
No.
But you suspected that your family
You
was
guys,
involved.
did
No
you
one
notice
did.
this? Hey, watch. She nods yes when she says no. And I normally don't pick up on stuff like that unless it's pretty obvious, at least to me. Watch this. Because this is the biggest question of all, right? Fucking spinning wheel. The crucial moment. Y'all, this is the thing. Hold on. Let me just, this freaking spin. Let me unshare, reshare. For some reason, that seems to help sometimes when it is being testy. We don't want to miss this at all. Okay.
Right. Were you involved in the plot
Here.
to kill your husband?
Absolutely not.
Did you
She's
have
not-
knowledge of the
Did you guys see that? She's nodding yes.
plot to kill your husband? No.
Again, she says no and she nods yes. Whoa.
But you suspected that your family was involved.
No, I did not suspect that my family
Yes.
was involved.
Did you
Wendy.
mention in your interview with law enforcement that you suspected that your family could be
Oh
behind
my
this?
God.
I think I speculated about lots of things during the 6 hours I spent with law enforcement without an attorney present trying to help them solve this murder.
Stop
I thought all kinds of
that.
things.
Right. And one of the things you said
Wendy?
was that your
We just watched this. You guys, we just watched this. Y'all were there. Stop it. You never once asked for an attorney. You chatted it up. You said shit like, I'm usually more fun. I'm still in the process of clipping all the crazy shit you said. You've got to be kidding to make it seem like you were. Your friend came and sat there with you for like an hour just offering you hugs. Don't. I can't even with this. Like, this is another level. Like, as if she had some like crazy ass, like, you know, interrogation like what you usually see. No. Stop. Oh my God.
family very much disliked him and that you thought it was possible that
Right.
someone had done this on your behalf, unbeknownst to you.
I did say I thought someone might have done this on my behalf. Yes.
And who did your brother know that had connections that could get something like that done?
I have no idea.
Do you know Catherine Magbanua?
I have met Catherine Magbanua twice, as I mentioned.
She was your brother Charlie's girlfriend at the time of this murder, wasn't she?
I believe
Objection
so.
has been
There
answered.
may have been other girlfriends
Overruled.
at the time.
Whoa.
Wait a second. Okay, now answer the question.
Specifically at the time of the murder, Catherine Magbanua was your brother's girlfriend at that time, correct?
I think so.
Ugh.
And can you
Gross.
identify her? You mentioned you've been to the beach with her on one occasion and dinner on another occasion. Do you see her in
years
the
ago,
courtroom?
This
I
is
do.
super relevant because we were just talking about this with BK. This moment right here, she's going to identify the defendant, right? This is what you have in every trial. And it is just so interesting how they're, you know, to have a trial where like maybe there's not anybody that can even do that, you know?
Could you
Right.
please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
Oh my
She's
God.
sitting over here. She has on a striped blouse and a blazer.
Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant. You mentioned that your brother Charlie had a lot of girlfriends. Did you meet all of his girlfriends?
I highly doubt I met all of them, but I met a lot of them.
All right. And specifically in reference to this defendant, did you talk to her on the phone ever separate from your brother?
I have no memory of ever doing that. I don't think so.
Okay, so it wasn't like you had
Twiz.
become girlfriends. in an
Twiz.
independent relationship.
Twiz. No. This is Katie's trial. This is Katie's trial. So this is from 2022. And this is Katie's retrial. This was a month after Charlie was arrested. So this is day 2 of Katie's retrial. And honestly, this is really good. Like Wendy practices a lot more for Charlie's trial. This is really good. So we're going to see Wendy, Jeff, and Luis Rivera. And Katie takes the stand as well, but we won't see that today, but we will watch that. We will watch her take the stand when it gets to their case in chief. So, yeah. Yep.
You only saw her secondary to visiting your brother? Twice, on 2 occasions. I'll show you State's Exhibit 35. $35.
One sounds like there's frogs in that courtroom, you guys. I mean, Kate, oh my God, Wendi is so manipulative, you know? That binder. I love the way she just plays that binder is great.
That was the second time we got together. It looks like the 3 of us at the beach. So it's me, Katie, and one of her friends.
Do you remember the friend's name?
I do not.
If I said it, would you be able to say yes or no?
I wouldn't.
Okay. And do you know when the photo was taken?
I don't. My best guess is 2013 or 2014.
Okay.
That's a shitty ass guess. 2-year range. Stupid. I mean, well, whatever. God, it sounds like there's frogs in this.
Do you recall going to Miami for Father's Day in June, right before Dan Markel was murdered?
I don't have a strong memory of it, but it sounds like something I might have done to visit my dad.
Okay. Did you previously testify in reference to this same photograph or similar photograph?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And did you testify at that time?
Objection, Your Honor, improper impeachment. We're fine with
We'll return to it, Judge.
All
Just
right,
give me a
that's
minute.
sustained.
All right. And did you have any contact with this defendant since the murder in any kind of way, any communication?
No.
Did you have any contact with her in any way on the day of the murder?
No.
Her face is just.
Do you remember what girlfriends came after Catherine Magbanua as far as your brother's girlfriend?
Unum Jinda.
In order?
Just do your best.
I do. I mean, I feel nervous about saying their names out loud.
Why don't we just use first names then?
I remember Whitney.
Okay.
After Whitney.
Whitney, And was Whitney a serious girlfriend?
I think Whitney was a fairly serious girlfriend.
All right. And what about after her?
I'm blanking after Whitney.
Do you remember June?
Yes. Oh, yes. June was after Whitney.
Okay. And can you give me the basic time frame for Whitney?
I just really remember how old my boys were, but I don't know how long she was in his life for. So maybe like 2014 to 2015 or 16, and then June after that, and I think on and off for a couple of years.
Right. The thing is this.
And then
when she described like how Charlie's like with a different girl every day type thing, like 50 bazillion girlfriends, like the way that she pictures that, like I picture that is like every time she saw Charlie who's with a different girl. I think that's actually how she describes it. But now she's describing like 2-year-long relationships. So I don't know. Maybe he was cheating on them. I don't know.
Together with the mother of his son. And that was probably 2018.
Okay. I'm going to approach, would it refresh your
Not only
recollection
that,
to
she
look at some
changed the kid's last name, which is really interesting, right? Because like now they're stuck with the last name Adelson, you know? And think about that, right? It's like have maybe a little bit more foresight would have been, been a good idea, because like these kids are forever going to be associated with this family, and they're all going to be more than likely, in prison, except for maybe Harvey. So, and obviously Rob. I mean, the Adelson crime family of the century, as we were joking, right? So, you know, I know it's awful. And his parents are so nice too. And they have been through so much, and they still live in Canada. So they come from Canada for every one of these proceedings. And there's been so many of them already. And by the way, the latest news, apparently Donna is like trying to claim that there's some other extortion thing happening in the prison with Katie, which is really reminiscent of the double extortion theory from Charlie's trial. And then also she's trying to claim that she's like being like beaten up or something. And apparently the thought is like she's trying to get out on bond or something. You know, it's, you know, I wouldn't trust her as far as I can throw her. I mean, you know, and apparently she was already being given like the special treatment. Like she had her own little special area that was like the nicest area and all this and that. And then she like complained that like people were beating her up, and I don't even know. She's strategizing. That's what she's doing. She's trying to strategize and get herself into a better position. You know, and just the personality still comes through. You know what I mean? Right? I know. Right? Crazy.
Text messages so you could give me exact dates of when these women were in your brother's life. Sure.
A weird facial expression. I know I keep saying that. It's just really, I just feel like I never see a human with this type of facial expression. And again, you can't really appreciate this in her interrogation. And in Charlie's trial, she has a little bit of it, but her hair is more brushed or something. So it doesn't have the same effect.
So help me understand though, this is a message between.
Just take a minute.
Help me understand?
Okay. I'm using this to figure out who he was dating when.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're just gonna take a look at it.
God, Wendi.
If you can't figure out what it is or if it doesn't refresh, then you don't.
Okay. Right. So it looks like he was with her.
It's
he was
just
with Whitney in
text
2014,
messages for
2015.
Okay.
But-
And the specific date?
I mean, it just means that they're in touch with each other. It doesn't mean that they're dating.
Okay. And when were they in touch?
It looks like he's telling me Whitney is trying to get back together with him in
Objection,
May.
Your Honor. At this point, the witness is just testifying off the documents,
All right.
which we've only seen for a few seconds.
I'm going to sustain that. Okay, I don't want you reading from the documents. What you need to do is take a look at them. If it refreshes your recollection as to what the information that is being asked, then testify to that. If you're just having to read from that document and you don't recall independently, then your answer is that you don't recall. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my answer
Let's all
is
remember something real quick, because this is Katie's trial. Remember, Katie was offered full immunity and to full immunity before this trial. Okay. Not even a plea deal, not even you serve some time and then you go home early. She was offered full immunity for her cooperation, as in you go home and you have no record. Like, that's it. A get out of jail free card. And apparently the night before trial, she turned it down. And this is the trial that is resulted of that. So it's just keeping that in mind, right? Because it blows the mind as to what the hell happened with her counsel. Because I don't understand. Like, that makes no sense.
same as it was. I said 2014, 2015, and it looks like there's conversation around that time. So, okay, it doesn't independently refresh.
Okay. let's take a
She's
look.
not refreshed, guys.
Yeah, it's the same. The same. 2014.
I love that color on Georgia. Normally I hate that type of color, but it looks great on Georgia. Like a fuchsia type deal. funny contrast too as well with Wendi.
All right. So 2014, 2015 for both of those women.
Wait, both of us, it's the same woman. It's Whitney.
Oh, I was also asking about June.
Oh, I didn't see June in those text messages.
Okay. When was he dating June?
It's a guess, but I think it's around the same time, maybe 2015, 2016.
Okay. So is it your recollection that it went Magbanua, then Whitney, then June?
As far as people that I met.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I've marked as states 36. Do you recognize state 36?
I think I've seen this picture before.
Okay. And do you recognize the people in the picture?
I do.
Is it a fair and accurate photo of the folks in the picture?
It looks like them back in the day. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know what
I think I've seen this picture before, so that means you recognize it, right?
It's my brother and Katie.
your brother Charlie?
My brother Charlie.
Okay. And Katie, the defendant in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And is it fair to say this photo was taken during the time that they were dating?
It definitely looks like it.
And what was that time frame?
I don't know the time frame of when they were dating.
Okay. Were they dating at the time of this murder? We've already
I believe so.
established that. Okay. And is this how they appeared around that time? Is it accurate in their appearance?
It seems so. Nobody has any like, weird facial hair or doctor. I don't know. It looks like I imagine they looked at that time.
Okay. And you saw them at that time, around that time, because you went to the beach and you
I
had dinner.
did. Yeah. I mean, it's been 8 years, so they look different.
They look different now?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's how they look back then.
Probably, yes.
All right. So at this time, I asked to move into evidence states 36.
Any objection?
One brief moment, Your Honor. To be a stickler judgment and proper authentication.
Overruled. It'll be admitted as states 36. What's wrong? You may.
I disagree with that.
The good old days when we weren't all in jail / prison. I guess at this point she's in prison, or no, I guess at this point they're both in jail because he's on trial
Do you
and
know of any specific gifts that your brother gave this defendant during their relationship?
boob job.
I don't.
What about after their relationship? Were there any gifts after the conclusion of their relationship?
I am not aware of any gifts between them.
Were you aware that she was on the payroll at the Adelson Institute?
I know that she worked at my dad's office for a while, so it
No.
would make sense that she was on the payroll.
And what
She was on
duties
the
did she
payroll.
perform there?
I have no idea.
Okay, and when you say she worked there, did she physically went there?
I really don't know.
And did you ever work at the Adelson Institute?
I did in
Okay.
between my master's and my law degree.
All
I did
right. And
filing.
did you see
Like
Catherine
money.
Magbanua there when you were working there?
No, that was 2003.
How do you know that Ms. Magbanua worked at the Adelson Institute?
How do I know? I'm trying to remember if I knew at the time or I found out later. Probably
That is
my
a
brother would have
good
told me that Katie
Question.
was working, and
That's a good
That's how I was
question.
All right. And was that before
That's
this
a good
murder? or
question.
since the
That's
murder?
I
knowledge.
have no idea.
You don't know
Remember,
the time frame
guys,
she worked there?
I don't know the time frame she worked there, and I don't know why
That
he
was
would
a
have told
really
me.
good question because remember, she never actually worked there. It was all just so that they could pay her checks through the company, right? So the fact that Wendi knew she worked there, or well, again, not worked there, but the fact that she's saying she knew she worked there, as in was getting paid on the payroll, that was brilliant. Well done, Georgia.
I wasn't very involved with the day-to-day operations of the office or
Now she's trying to walk
what they did.
back.
Do you know if your brother had any other ex-girlfriends on the payroll at the Adelson Institute?
I don't know.
Twiz, I just realized it's on the banner at the
Let's go to
bottom
the day of Dan Markel's murder. What were you doing that day?
that it says Katie's
I
retrial.
was at home that morning. I was working on a couple of pieces of writing. I was waiting. I remember the Geek Squad was coming to fix my television.
And here we go.
Was
Now,
that the same television that your brother had purchased for you as a divorce gift because it was
so
cheaper
guys,
than
now we're on the day of the murder. Okay, this is crucial. Geek Squad.
Hitman?
It was the television that my brother had bought for me.
All right. And did your
I
mother, Donna
I do it out of
Adelson,
love.
arrange from Miami for the Geek Squad to come to your home that morning to fix
No,
the
I did.
TV? Would it refresh your recollection to
What?
review some text messages regarding that issue?
Oh
Hold
my
on a second.
God.
Objection, Your Honor.
Impeach
Proper
the
impeachment
fuck
of the
out-
witness. Give
no.
an answer.
Impeach the
Overruled.
fuck out of her. It's so funny. In Charlie's trial, she answers this completely differently.
I take a look.
Instead of resisting, she goes all in. Like, yeah, my mom had to do the appointment because blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's what prompted me to call the Geek Squad in the first place, to ask questions about it. At least it's not 800 pages. So we're going to get to the Geek Squad. We're going to get to Trescott. We're going to get to the Bullet Bourbon.
Yeah, I don't really understand. It's my best recollection that I set up the appointment for them to come.
No, that's not what.
Sometimes this happens now where there's a different number on the account, so they call the wrong account. So
What?
they could have called my mom and she would have said, no, call my daughter.
just making
I need to
stuff
confirm
up.
with you.
Okay, but your mom does indicate that she is sending the guy. to your
No,
house.
she indicates that she was called by Best Buy.
Mhm.
So that means she was called by accident since they were coming to my house.
Okay. And
What?
did you have an appointment scheduled in your calendar, fixed TV?
I did. I thought they were supposed to come sometime between 8 and noon. And then they came pretty early, I think.
And that was the
9,
problem
something
for
like
her
that.
All right. And did you delete,
because of the alibi.
shown on the far right column there if you need to refresh your recollection, but did you delete that appointment to have the TV fixed?
I'm usually kind of OCD about this. So after I have a meeting, I'll delete it if it's done. I use my calendar
Oh.
kind of like a to-do list. So I'll have the meeting and then I'll
That
delete
is
it.
interesting.
Okay.
So I must
I
have
didn't-
deleted it once
Wow.
they arrived or
She
sometime
took it off
later.
her list.
Okay. And right before the message that indicates, that's from your mother that we just talked about, Best Buy called,
Okay.
there's a message that says, "This is so sweet." Who is that
Objection, Your Honor.
message to?
Objection.
Hold on. What's the objection?
Hearsay, Your Honor. Item is in evidence.
That's sustained.
All right. Can you say who the
Hearsay.
message before the Best Buy message? Who did you send that message to?
It looks like I sent that message to my brother.
Your brother Charlie?
Yes.
All right. And that message was deleted as well?
I always
Remember,
delete my messages.
oh, God,
But yes, it looks like I deleted it at some point.
so sus.
All right.
He talked to Charlie on the
And
phone as
that
well. this morning.
message, what were you referring to in that message, if you know?
I have no idea.
But it was sweet, whatever it was.
I mean, 8 years ago, I have no idea what was sweet.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Wow.
So did Best Buy show up and repair the TV that morning?
They showed up and they tried to repair the TV,
No.
but I needed to make a call of whether it was worth repairing or whether I should just get a new
Yeah.
one.
So they
The
didn't try to
cost I remember
repair it. They were
being
like, it's too expensive.
And this was, how old was the TV at this point?
I don't know. I don't think it was very old, just a couple of years.
Well, it was given to you as a divorce present at the time of
Ah.
your divorce, right? In 12?
Right. So it wasn't that the TV was old. I think one of the kids had thrown something at the screen, so
Here
it
we
cracked
go.
it.
Okay. But the fix was done in 14, or the attempted fix.
The attempted fix was in
Okay.
14.
All right. So the repairman did show up that morning, correct?
Yes.
And you said you did not recall your mom making that appointment, but was
Yeah,
it usual or typical
wow.
for your mom to get involved in
She
that type of
testifies to this
minutia of your
completely
daily life?
differently
No.
than Charlie.
It would be unusual if she did that.
I mean, it would not be unusual for her to try to help me with various things. So
Oh my
it
God.
doesn't sound out of the realm of possibility, but I
Wow.
remember distinctly setting it up for that morning of sometime, like when you wait for a repairman to come, they come in the window, they say between 9 and 1. I remember there being a window they had told me.
That's
And do you
not
remember the
responsive.
specific window in this case?
I keep thinking it was 8 to 12, but I don't know if that's correct.
Okay, and we're talking about 8
Oh,
a.m.
dear.
between 8 a.m. and noon. And you agree that your husband,
Yep.
ex-husband, sorry, I keep doing that, was murdered between 8 a.m. and noon.
I don't know the exact time of when it happened.
Lies. You,
Really?
dude.
Between 8 a.m. and noon.
Yes.
I mean, yes, but I thought it was closer to 10 or 11.
Okay. But the question was it between 8 a.m. and noon?
Yes, it was between 8 a.m. and
You
noon.
showed
All right.
up
And did
there.
you leave your residence at all that day
Here we
after
go.
you got the TV?
Here
or
we
the
go.
TV man came?
After the TV repairman came, I did a little bit more work from home. I talked to a couple of friends, and then I made plans to have lunch with 2 friends that I frequently saw on Fridays. And we made kind of a last minute plan to have lunch. And then
So-
I had a few errands to run before I met them. So
This part is also funny too, because she said the same thing in Charlie's trial, where it's like, and in the interrogation, like, yeah, we regularly meet on Fridays, like as if it's a regular thing. but then she's like, it was a last minute plan. So, because again, she's trying to make it seem like she wasn't giving herself an alibi.
I did that. I picked up gas. I picked up something I needed for a party that night.
Super
and
glue.
then I went to meet my friends for lunch.
You got super glue.
All right. And do you know what time you left the residence that day?
I don't. I guess it's somewhere around noon.
No.
And then went and ran your errands? On the way to run your errands,
I think it
did
was
you go
before
by
noon.
the crime scene?
No.
On the way to run your
Oh
errands, did you
my
encounter a roadblock on Trescott?
God.
I did.
All right, so you did turn off of Centerville onto Trescott.
I did.
All right, and when you encountered a roadblock, what did you assume the problem was there?
I figured it was just an electrical storm or something. There was some tape, and it looked like the road was blocked off. And so I just turned around and went back and went up Benton.
And had there been an electrical storm that morning?
I didn't remember an electrical storm, but in the summertime, there's always trees falling and rainstorms, so pretty normal.
Right, and you
Not on
weren't
that day.
concerned based on that experience that there could be something going on at previously your marital home.
Absolutely not.
And your ex-husband, Dan Markel, had your children at that time, right?
No, he did not.
Okay, so you had your children at that time?
No, my children were at preschool at that time.
Right, but who took them to preschool that day?
Danny would have taken them to preschool.
So it was his day. He was killed on his parenting day.
It was the day he would have brought them to preschool and I would have picked them up.
All right. Did they spend the night with him the night before?
He did.
And you hadn't seen your children yet that day when you encountered the roadblock?
On Friday, no.
So, you know,
And were you on the phone when you encountered the roadblock? If you
I was.
remember? Do you
different
remember who you were
between a
speaking
legit
to?
alibi and a
Who was
staged
that?
alibi.
You don't have to say the name, but just what type of person was that?
He was a friend. I hadn't caught up with him a long time. He had moved to England. So I was probably a little distracted talking and catching up with an old friend.
And when you encountered, at the time that you encountered the roadblock or shortly thereafter, did you call the daycare?
No.
Did you call Dan Markel?
No.
Did you do anything to reach out to any of the players that we've talked about in this case?
No,
Did you communicate to anyone that there was a roadblock?
I didn't. I would have had no reason to do that.
Was Dan Markel scheduled to leave town the day after he was killed?
I believe so.
Where was he going?
He was going to New York.
And that's where he had a girlfriend?
That's where his girlfriend lived.
Do you know how the killers knew that Dan Markel was planning to leave town the next day?
I have no idea.
You didn't relay that information to anyone.
Absolutely not.
Did you have WhatsApp on your phone at the time?
I really don't know. I have it now. I don't know if I had it 8 years ago.
Did you communicate with anyone on WhatsApp or similar technology to relay any information about the murder of your husband?
Absolutely not.
Do you know if your brother Charlie had WhatsApp at the time?
I have no idea.
Did you communicate with him through WhatsApp?
If I had WhatsApp on my phone, then maybe I did.
They
I
communicate
know I
through
had
WhatsApp.
friends who lived around the world at that time. WhatsApp
lying.
was more of a technology used to talk to people internationally. So
She's just
I know the
lying.
friend I was talking to was in England.
At
If I had
everybody's
WhatsApp,
questions.
I would have used it to call him.
Did you know that WhatsApp, the communications are encrypted? They cannot be retrieved by law enforcement. Were you aware of that?
I think they can be retrieved by law enforcement, but it's one of the end-to-end encryption services.
All right. And so you can't tell the jury whether you communicated through WhatsApp at all on the day of the murder?
I don't remember if I had it 8 years ago. I have it now, so we could look and figure
for
out
fuck's
if I had
sake,
it then, but
Wendy.
I don't know.
All right. Did you ever communicate with Katie Magbanua at any time through WhatsApp?
I never communicated with her at all.
When you left the residence and encountered the roadblock, where were you headed?
When I left my residence,
Oh,
I was
boy.
headed to ABC Liquors to get an item that was requested for a stock the bar party. I was supposed to go to that Friday night. I
And what
going
was
to
that
pick up-
item?
I'm sorry?
What was the item?
It was bourbon,
What type of bourbon?
bullet bourbon. The
And did you-
invitation had asked specifically to bring a bottle of bullet bourbon. So I went to the store and asked them where I could find that.
And the bottle of bullet bourbon was in your vehicle when law enforcement came to interview you about this case.
Right. When I told law enforcement they could search my vehicle and signed away all my rights. Yeah.
After the murder of Dan Markel, was it your practice to tell people, just acquaintances and peripheral people in your life, that he had been involved in an accident?
I don't believe so.
Do you know whether
Oh,
that
wow.
was something that your brother told people?
I have no idea what my brother told people.
Did you ever hear your brother Charlie Adelson tell someone Dan Markel was involved in an accident?
No, I've never heard that. I was just thinking, law enforcement told me when they were interviewing me that I wasn't supposed to tell anyone what happened until it was released, but
And that was just the day of.
that was the day of.
Okay.
Yeah, and they never said it was an accident.
Did you or your
Wendy.
children benefit
We literally
financially
said from
your
the
husband's
get-go.
death?
Absolutely not.
Did your husband have a life insurance policy?
He did have a life insurance policy.
And what was the value of that policy?
I don't know what the value of it was at the time. I do know that his sister's a custodian of that life insurance policy, and I pay taxes on that money every year, but we don't.
Oh
we
my
don't receive any
God.
of it.
What was the value of it at the time of your husband's death?
It was $1 million,
Not 2 million?
$1 million for each child.
$2 million. All right. And did you believe prior to your husband's murder that you were the custodian of that money for the benefit of the boys?
No, we were divorced, so I was the custodian while we were married. But once we were divorced, I was no longer the custodian.
So you were aware that he had designated someone else to do
Yes.
that job? You didn't inquire through your attorney about challenging the designation of the sister as the custodian of that money?
I wasn't trying to challenge the designation, no.
Do you have access personally to that money?
No.
All right. What about a 401k? Did your ex-husband have a 401k when he died?
I believe he did.
All right. And are you the custodian of that money for the benefit of the boys?
I am. That's how I pay the taxes.
All right. Did he have a pension,
I don't know.
Social Security benefits?
I don't know if he had Social Security benefits. As survivors, my children receive Social Security benefits.
$4,800 a month, right?
That's right.
Deferred compensation fund,
I don't remember.
$217,000. Does that sound familiar?
I don't remember.
What about the IRA? Did you have an IRA?
I really don't know.
$100,000.
It's very possible.
What about a checking account?
I don't know if he, I assume he had a checking account.
$15,000 in there, right?
Wouldn't go to us, but sure, I imagine he had a checking account.
It wouldn't go to you and the boys? Where did it go?
Funeral expenses?
Okay. All right.
No,
And
that's actually what a life insurance policy is for. So
obviously you did not have to maintain your divorce lawyer for any purpose after the murder of Dan Markel.
I think at that point he was trying to provide counsel for something else, but no, I didn't. I had to maintain him for a little bit just to close out the case. He had some work to do to finalize things.
well, yeah, 800 pages.
And was your mom able to go back to
He had to go find a binder big enough to fit all those pages in. So yeah.
work full time once you moved to
Yep.
South Florida, or did she remain in the status of sort of helping with the kids a lot and working
She
part-time?
helped with the kids a lot, especially while I tried to get back on my feet and find work.
All right.
I thought, Wendi, that you said one of the reasons you wanted to go to South Florida was because there were more career opportunities. I mean, she did say that. She said that.
Have you ever returned to Tallahassee to live after, you said you left about 2 days after the death?
I've never come back to live. I came back to give a talk, I think twice. And then I came back for a friend's wedding.
God.
I came back for a friend's bar mitzvah. So probably came back 4 or 5 times since.
Right.
But
But the question
not
is to reside.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kaufman. I haven't lived here
Okay.
since I left.
You've lived steady in South Florida since that date.
I have lived in South Florida.
Okay. And who has full custody of your 2 boys?
Me.
And does your mom have any issues with having access to your boys, or does she have full access to your kids?
I mean, there's no issues with access. I
How often would you say your mom sees the kids?
think it depends on the week, but probably at least once or twice a week.
Not anymore.
How old are your boys now?
They're 11 and 12.
How old were they when their dad was killed?
It was 10 days before my older son's birthday, so he was almost 5. And my younger son was 3.5.
Did you change their legal names
Yep.
about a month or so after the murder?
No,
Gross.
not a month or so after the murder, no.
Okay. When was it done? Even sooner than that?
No, absolutely not. When I tried to put my children in school and their faces had been unblurred on CNN
She's not answering the question. Wow.
and all across social media,
I'm not
I
sorry to
thought we were
interrupt you, but if you'll answer my question is,
Unresponsive.
when were the boys' names changed?
the boys' names were changed after I wrote a letter to Danny's family explaining why I was
Ma'am,
changing their names
When were their
When
names
about a year
changed?
after.
Okay, and that was when they were legally changed, July 6, 2015?
I don't
Sound
remember
right?
the date, but if you have it, that sounds correct.
Okay, so they were legally changed on that date, but just a month or so after the murder, when you were enrolling them in school, is when they effectively had their names changed.
That is not true.
And what did you change their names from and to?
I changed their last name from their father's last name to mine.
From Markel to Adelson.
That is correct.
And did you also drop the middle name of one of your boys that was a tribute to his paternal side?
It was a tribute to both families.
Did you drop it?
I did. I lost an honor to both families that day, yes.
Stop it, dude. Wow. Wow.
Do you want the culpable parties in this murder held accountable?
Absolutely.
Goading.
And even if it involves your own family?
Absolutely.
Do you recall giving an interview with law enforcement on the day that your husband?
I was just gonna say, y'all remember she was asked this in her interview, right? About what if it was your own family? Do you think they should be held to the fullest extent of the law? And remember her answer was like something like, I'm sure George is gonna quote it, but it was something like, well, no, not if it's them. I don't think they should be held to the fullest extent of the law or something like that.
Ex-husband was murdered.
I recall sitting with law enforcement for 6 hours. Yes, I recall.
And did you tell law enforcement something different in that interview about the culpability of your family?
I'm sure while I sat for 6 hours completely traumatized that I said all kinds of
Stop
things.
it.
All right. And was one of the things you said while you sat for 6 hours completely traumatized that you wanted the culpable parties held accountable unless it was your family?
I don't believe I phrased it like that, and I think you're taking my words out of context, but sure.
No.
But sure?
But sure what?
No further questions.
All right, we're going to take our break now.
Oh my God. Did she even laugh? Hold on. I think Georgia even laughed at that. Hold on.
I don't believe I phrased it like that, and I think you're taking my words out of context, but sure.
But sure?
But sure what?
No further questions.
Brilliant. Okay, they're going to take a break. So we're going to jump through the break. And then it will be, or no, it looks like they don't take a break. Hold on.
All right, we're going to take our break now. So it'll be about a 10, 15-minute break, allow you to stretch your legs, use the facilities. And so the deputy will take you back. Remember, to continue to.
Okay, hold on. Okay, no, they do take a break. Okay, and then we're going to have cross. And actually, we should do a swoop because we're going on to cross. So, Wendi, swoop time. Pause it and we'll do our Wendi swoop.
I have that start.
There's Katie, her defense counsel.
Please, Ms. Kappelman, you may continue with your direct if necessary.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh.
So I'm going to approach you with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 64.
Oh, she's not done. Okay.
Ms. Adelson, did you have an opportunity to review State's 99 of disc containing wiretap?
I think it's because she wants to get this into evidence.
And as part of our pre-trial preparations, were you asked to listen to those calls and verify whether or not you could authenticate some of the voices?
Yeah, authenticating.
So I was asked not to listen to the whole call, but just to listen to a few seconds, enough to be able to identify the people speaking on the calls.
And is that what you did?
That is what I did.
All right. And is State's Exhibit 64 a fair and accurate recording of where your initials appear, that representing that you could authenticate the voices on that particular call?
That is correct.
Okay, so for example, the list includes call A on State's Exhibit 99, and you've initialed here indicating that the call is from Donna Adelson to Charlie Adelson.
That is correct.
Thank you, Judge. At this time, I'd ask you to evidence State 64.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Be admitted as State's Exhibit 64.
No other questions?
There we go.
All right, thank you.
All right, now it's cross time.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Sweet.
Ms. Adelson, this is all about you, isn't it?
Fuck yeah.
Excuse me?
This is all about you, right?
Oh my God.
I was called to be a witness and I'm testifying, so I don't understand the question. Is it a question?
There's about 100 people in this courtroom, right?
There are people in the courtroom.
Possibly thousands watching, right?
I have no idea who's watching.
And it's all because of your failed marriage, right?
I disagree with that.
You disagree that your ex-husband is dead because of your family.
Yes, I
Wow.
disagree.
These jurors are here for weeks doing their civic duty because of your marriage, right?
No.
Katie's going through this ordeal because of that marriage, right?
No.
Dan Markel's parents are going through absolute misery because of your failed marriage. Isn't that right?
No, that's incorrect.
Well, let's talk about
One of
this.
Katie's defense attorneys. So good. It's a good question. I was going to pause it anyway to say this, that you might be like, oh my God, why didn't we see this in Charlie's trial? This type of questioning, right? And the reason is this. Remember, we've talked a lot about the conflict of interest with Dan Rashbaum. And the problem, of course, with him is that he was representing like everybody in the family. So whereas in Charlie's trial, another attorney would probably have approached Wendy's cross like this, where it's like, you know, throwing Wendi and Donna under the bus type thing. He didn't do that because that's why he went with that stupid double extortion theory, because, you know, he was also representing Donna. And who knows, maybe he would have had the intent to represent Wendi as well. But this is what it should look like. So this is one of Katie's defense attorneys. No, this is not a prosecutor. This is Katie's one of Katie's defense attorneys. I forget his name. Because remember, this is Katie's trial, and so Georgia just finished her direct. So this is she's on cross now. She's being crossed.
Marriage. You and Professor Markel, you met when you were in law school. You told that to Miss Kaplan. And it was a whirlwind romance, right?
It's okay.
Right?
It was not a whirlwind romance, no.
It led to a wedding, February 26th of 2006. You had a big wedding in Boca Raton, right?
Did we get married on February 26, 2006? Is that the question? Yes,
In Boca Raton.
in Boca Raton, Florida.
And it wasn't a small wedding. It was a big wedding.
There were many people in attendance.
All right. In this marriage, it led to 2 children, right? Your 2 boys.
Are you asking me if I have 2 boys?
Yes.
Yes.
Ugh.
Professor Markel. he was
Why,
a
Wendi?
Great father, wasn't
He was a very good father, yes.
he? Those boys were his world, right?
As well as his work, yes.
And they adored him too, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Now, this marriage started to fall apart, right?
It did.
But there were problems from the very beginning, weren't there? Right?
Are you asking me, what is the very beginning? The very beginning of when we got married?
Literally at the wedding.
There
Yep.
were problems before we got married.
All right. So at the wedding, and the government asked you about kosher law, right?
About what, I'm sorry?
Keeping kosher,
About keeping kosher, yes.
right?
The
In
government
your
asked.
wedding, at your wedding was the groom's family, the Markel family,
Mhm.
and they are more strict than your family and friends about keeping
This is a big
kosher.
deal.
They do not keep kosher.
Wasn't that one of the problems in your marriage, that Professor Markel was very insistent about keeping kosher?
About his kosher rules, but those are different than his family's.
So you're saying that it wasn't a problem at the wedding, that there were people from the groom's side of the family that were there that strictly keep kosher, that they were told that it was going to be kosher food, but it actually wasn't.
So there was a misunderstanding about whether the food was going to be kosher style or more in adherence with kosher law. There was a miscommunication about that.
So you had people that strictly keep kosher eating non-kosher food, which is a big deal.
That actually is not what happened. You had
Right.
Danny was upset that it was kosher style and not strictly adhering to kosher law.
So
he was
that's,
disappointed.
yes.
So there's
Wendi.
problems right from the beginning.
That was a problem at our wedding. Yeah.
Fast forward now to September 10th, 2012. Professor Markel, he's away on a business trip, right?
Yes.
He's in New York City at New York University, right?
I believe so. Yes.
And he's doing a presentation.
I don't know what he was doing.
Your husband at the time was in New York to give a presentation. You knew that, right?
I knew he was in New York. I didn't know if he was attending a conference or giving a presentation, but he was in New York for work.
Now, you had not communicated with him for 2 days.
I really don't remember.
You text him at around 2:30 in the afternoon, right? Right before he's about to do the presentation.
Yeah, I think that I think the law, I think that's what they call it. Does anyone in the chat know? If any of you guys are Jewish or know, I'm pretty sure that it's called that also, like kosher law, because it's like the law of the, oh my God, the Torah. You guys, I'm not up on religious stuff, obviously. Pretty sure that's the right book. And you know, it's in other words, sort of like the 10 Commandments would be for people that are maybe old school Christians. It's like God's law type thing. I think that's kind of the deal.
I really don't remember.
But you do remember dropping the bomb on him, don't you? Telling him that you wanted a divorce.
So I did not drop a bomb on him. We'd been in therapy for several months beforehand where I told him several times I wanted a divorce.
You say it's not a bomb, but you agree with me that he begged you to reconsider.
He was very upset and yes, wanted me to reconsider, but
In that phone call, he's begging you to reconsider. Please don't leave. Please don't break up our family, right?
He was very upset, yes.
And he was heartbroken. I mean, upset indicates that there was anger. What he was heartbroken, right?
That I decided to divorce him after telling him I would, yes.
Despite being at NYU for a presentation, he rushes home. He gets on the next flight.
Wow.
Right?
I honestly don't remember if he got on the next flight, but he did come home quickly.
2:30, he finds out in New York. By 11 p.m., he's walking in the door to your old house at Trescott Drive, right?
I don't know.
But you do know that when he walks in the house, what he finds. You know that, right?
Yes, I left him the papers.
You left the divorce papers on the bed, right?
Gross.
Half the furniture was gone.
Half the furniture was not gone.
A good amount of his stuff was gone.
Nothing of his was gone.
The boys' stuff was gone, right?
That's a
Some
lie.
of the boys' things were gone. I'd taken enough so that I had for the boys, but no,
You were gone.
I was gone. Yeah.
And so
And
were
by
his-
the way, and I'm sure we'll hear about it. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, one of the things, that's why I keep saying it's a lie. One of the things that was a huge deal that she took was Dan Markel's, it was like his grandmother's, like they called it like the Holocaust ring, because his family was Holocaust survivors. And one of the items that she took was like, this is a family heirloom of Dan's, and she took it. And it was one of the things that was like such a big deal. And she took more than half the furniture. Literally, what happened was that he came home and the house was like empty, save for the divorce papers on the bed. Why did she take it? That would be, if the best I can guess, you know, revenge, to punish him, to hurt him, you know, that type of thing. I mean, being vindictive, all that type of stuff. And the thing, right, there we go, because she's nuts. And whenever it's her trial, right, some of these questions, I've been thinking to myself, some of these questions they will be able to get more into at her trial. You know, like whenever we hear these questions being asked by either the prosecutor or the defense, they know the answer and they know that she's lying, you know? But there's only so much they can do when it's like, you know, it's not her trial yet.
boys.
His boys were not gone. He saw them the next day, and they would not have been awake if he's coming home at 11 p.m.
Oh,
Let's stay on topic here.
ew,
He walks in the
gross.
he walks in the door. The boys are not in the house, right?
Correct.
And you did not tell Professor Markel where you were taking the boys. He may have seen them the next day, but you did not let him know where you were going to be staying with his boys.
With our boys? Yes.
Oh my God.
So you agree with me that they're also his.
Of course they're his.
And he should be entitled to know where his wife is taking his children.
Absolutely.
He's the literal worst guy.
That's not all you took, is it?
Here we go. The
You
ring.
two had a joint checking account at Schwab, right?
We did.
And you went into that account before you dropped the bomb, and you took out half of that account, right?
Correct.
Roughly $350,000.
Half, yes. Of our joint account.
$350,000.
I don't remember the amount, but yes.
You know that it was in the hundreds of thousands.
I really don't remember the amount, sir.
Is it that insignificant of a sum to you that you
I'm
don't
not saying it's
remember?
an
Ooh, good
insignificant sum.
question.
I'm saying I can't attest to the amount that
Question.
was there.
I'm going to tone it down. You were unhappy in the marriage, right?
That's why I got divorced, yes.
And it happens. Marriages fall apart, right?
Yes.
But you complained constantly about it, didn't you?
No, I don't think I complained constantly.
To anyone that would
Oh
listen.
my God.
No, that's not true.
You
Okay.
agree with me that you
So Jeff Lacasse, and we'll hear from him again. He testifies on the same day, you know, and we've already watched his interviews. I mean, literally, you know, he's a great fucking witness. And like the way that he describes that this was like all day, every day, like his life was hearing about Wendi complain about hating Tallahassee and the divorce and wanting to go to Miami. And like, it was like from the get-go, like, and I just thought to myself, as I hear him describe it, I'm like, that poor dude had to listen to her bitch about this for so long, every day. How the hell did he stand it? I don't even know.
complained to the one person that would actually do something about it.
I don't understand what you're asking.
Your big brother, Charles Adelson, you complained to him about how bad Professor Markel was and how much you hated him and didn't want to be in a marriage with him.
I definitely talked to my brother about how unhappy I was in my marriage. If that's the question, then yes.
Let's
Is that
talk
the
about it.
question?
Yes, that is a question. You talked to your brother, Charles Adelson, about how bad your marriage was.
I did, yes.
Let's talk about it. Gavin asked you about Charles Adelson. He's an intelligent guy, right?
He is smart.
Yeah. He's both book smart and street smart, right?
I would say so.
You would say that he's a talker.
He does like to talk.
He's got the gift of gab, so to speak.
I wouldn't say he's the gift of gab, but
No, he does.
He knows what to say in the moment.
I wouldn't say that's true either.
You would say, though, that he is. Now, you were asked questions about, drug purchasing and stuff like that. You'd agree with me that he's also street smart.
I mean, I think he has common sense.
And that he lives life to a certain extent on both sides of the track. During the day, he's doing periodontal work, whatever that is, crowns, root canals, whatever that is. He's doing that during the day. At night, he's out with friends, he's buying drugs, he's living life on both sides of the track.
I don't know about that he's out buying drugs.
Now, let's talk for a second about WhatsApp. And as an aside here for a second, the government asked—
on direct examination, you said you conceded, and it's a rare thing for her, right? She conceded, that he uses drugs, right? So if you're saying he doesn't buy them, are you suggesting he's stealing drugs? Is that what you're saying, Wendy?
ask you the question if you used WhatsApp, right? You remember that?
I remember them asking me, yes.
On the day—
So the Adelson Institute Harvey, the dad, was also a dentist along with Charlie. So the Adelson Institute is it doesn't exist anymore. It was the dental practice, the family's dental practice. And again, that's also how they tried to use, I mean, in my mind, I think of it kind of as laundering money, right? Like to pay Katie through the business, through the Adelson Institute for the hit. Donna signed checks from the Adelson Institute. Man. The WhatsApp of it all. Hang on, let me unshare, reshare.
That Professor Markel was killed, you went in for the interview, right?
I talked to the police.
And you also gave them your phone for them to inspect.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So the determination of what, if any, WhatsApp was being used, they would have from the download they did that day of your phone.
Sure.
Now, would you be surprised to learn that your brother used WhatsApp?
No.
You would agree with me that WhatsApp, and you explained it well, is end-to-end encryption.
Correct.
In your lay opinion, if you can explain to the jurors, just in case they don't know what that means.
I know that it's something we use at my work because essentially it has the ability to keep things more private. I also know that nothing's actually private and that anyone who wants to can uncode the messages. So that's what we tell people at our work.
Huh?
So the thought is with WhatsApp, if I use my phone and I call somebody, the call could be listened to. If I text somebody, it's recordable, right?
I think so.
But with WhatsApp, you can send messages or have phone calls where there's no record of it.
I don't think that's true. I think there is still a record of it.
But the belief and the thought, I'll withdraw that question. Your lay understanding, though, is that
it makes no sense. It's like if you're like, well, she's dude, her answers are so dumb. She starts out, well, we used it at work because it's end-to-end encrypted, and so nobody can find out about it. It's like, okay, and then she's like, but none of it's actually prep. So then what? Like, then what's the point?
Footprint that it leaves is much less than that of normal communications.
I think it's different, but I think it still leaves a digital footprint that's easily uncodable.
If you were to send a WhatsApp message to Ms. Kaplan, it would show that a message was sent, but it would be hard to get what the content of the message is.
Yes.
I don't think that's true.
That's true. That's accurate.
Let's talk about your brother's jokes now. You don't deny that he joked about hiring a hitman.
He did.
You don't deny that he repeated this joke.
He did.
And he made this joke right before a hitman murdered Professor Markel.
Oh,
I don't know
man.
that to be true.
Okay. He made the joke right before, and I'll leave out the hitman part. Professor Markel was killed.
Wow.
He made the joke the morning that I talked to him.
Can you think of one person in this world that would actually hire two people to go kill Professor Markel other than your family?
Beautiful.
No.
Oh,
Ms. Adelson, please
you
answer.
guys, she looked at the judge as in, help me. Holy fuck. Oh my God. This is the type of cross that should be had every time she testifies. And again, it's such a shame that with Dan Rashbaum, Charlie's attorney, right? That's not what happens because of the conflicts of interest. It's just really apparent, right? This is the obvious excoriation that needs to be happening. And honestly, it's like, to me, it's like ineffective assistance of counsel on Dan Rashbaum's part. Add that to the list, though, for him, right, of things.
And I'll leave out the hitman part. Professor Markel was killed.
Watch her look at the judge for help. Oh, my God.
He made the joke the morning that I talked to him.
Can you think of one person in this world that would actually hire two people to go kill Professor Markel other than your family?
No.
He can't help you, ma'am. Wow.
Ms. Adelson,
Oh, my God.
please answer. Please
I'd
address
love
me and
to. It
answer the
just it
question.
calls for an unbelievable amount of speculation. I mean, I'm responsible for coming up with, that's the prosecutor's duty, to figure out who's responsible.
You just said a moment ago that you disagree that Hitman killed Professor Markel. That's what you said, right? So my question to you is, if you're able to say, well, it wasn't Hitman, then who? Tell this jury, who on this planet would have wanted to kill Professor Markel?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into that a little bit. But I want to make sure that's clear. This joke is made right before Professor Markel is murdered, right?
The joke was made many times.
It was made right before Professor Markel was murdered. Yes or no?
Yes.
July 18, 2014, you're interviewed and you make a statement saying, I knew this would happen.
Are you saying that he should have said his girlfriend was cheating with her as in Wendi? Because if so, I think you may not realize that there was a moment in Charlie's trial. We learn about it through the jail phone calls. There's Charlie's telling Donna, the mom, right, about this day in his trial when Wendi testifies in his trial. And there's a story about Charlie saying, like, he's getting ready for the court's going to start or whatever. And he sees a couple of girls sitting over there and like, they're kind of cute and they're like flirting and smiling at each other back and forth. And he's going through this whole story about like the flirting and blah, blah, blah. And then he realizes that one of them was Wendi. So.
Said that, right?
I did.
All right. Now I want to talk about your knowledge and your belief on this. You're a smart person, right?
How am I supposed to answer that?
Well, let's go through your resume. You went to Brandeis University, right?
I did.
You graduated magna cum laude.
I did.
If you could explain to the jury what that means.
It means I studied a lot and got good grades.
All right. It means, and to speak, I'm from the Northeast. My Boston accent may give it away. It means you're wicked smart, right? You had a high GPA, a very high GPA.
Wicked smart.
You also went and you got a master's degree from the University of Cambridge.
I did.
You were a Gates Scholar.
I mean, it's really funny
you
how
then go to the University of Miami.
It's really funny how, she tried to make herself, she really on direct, right? Really wanted to brag about her accomplishments and being smart or whatever. But then, of course, as soon as she's asked that question directly, you say you're smart, right? Because she knows it means there's going to be a trap coming, right? So now she doesn't want to concede that. And so now it's like going to have to minimize all this shit, which is hilarious.
Miami School of Law, which is a top tier law school, tier 1, right?
Okay.
Right? We're talking about your level of intelligence. You went to the University of Miami Law School, right?
I did, yes.
You also clerked at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, right?
To be way inferior to FSU.
Right?
I did.
Now, to get a clerkship out of law school, it's a very difficult thing to do, right?
That's true.
It's challenging.
You have to have top grades. You have to go through a rigorous selection process, right?
Yes.
You then become a professor at the Florida State University College of Law, right?
Yes.
You're also a published author. Right.
Now you're just embarrassing me.
She doesn't want to talk about her book. The book. The one book.
Why are you embarrassed that you're a published author?
I don't like talking about myself.
Is it because the book that you wrote?
Stop it, Wendi. No, stop. Really. I don't like talking about myself. Oh, good one.
Oh, discredited Tallahassee and spoke ill of it?
The book did not discredit Tallahassee. It wasn't about Tallahassee.
Let's stay on topic and ask a question again with everything that we just went through. You're a smart woman, right?
I am a smart woman.
There's information about this case everywhere. You'd agree with me on that, right?
I've been advised by my lawyer not to read it.
All right. Now, we're not talking about reading stuff. There's podcasts.
Also not to listen.
TV shows.
Also not to watch.
Articles.
Don't read.
And so you've made the decision. Now, you're a lawyer yourself too, right?
I am.
And you made the decision, I'm not going to look at any of this stuff.
Correct.
I don't want to know what happened to the father of my 2 children.
I don't want to know what happened.
How can you say you love those boys if you don't care who killed the father that they loved?
Of course I care who killed the father.
Oh, wow.
Then why won't you look at the stuff?
I've been advised not to.
Are you afraid that when you look at it, you're going to realize that your brother did this?
I am not afraid.
Wow.
Now, of course, you've, and we won't get into privileged communications, but you've spoken to your lawyer about the case.
How are we not getting into privileged communications? Yes, I've spoken to my lawyer about the case.
You're very intelligent. You have one of the top defense attorneys in the country, former federal prosecutor, John Law, right there in the blue suit. Right?
Oh.
He is my attorney.
You're telling me with all of this at your disposal, your intelligence, his experience, and all this information, that you don't care to find out who it is that killed Professor Markel?
This is not that I don't care to find out. My job is to take care of those boys, and that is what I do. I don't see how it helps take care of them to go reading and watching and soaking up all of the horrible.
Are you asking what Dan Markel did? So Dan Markel was a law professor at FSU, and Peter Tragos, Laura, he was one of Peter's teachers. He was considered to be brilliant. Shout out to Meg, glad you're back. Took a little appetizer, love it. let me back this. This is, dude, I forgot how amazing this is. This is like, so like, she's just getting slaughtered. I love it. I love every second
His
of it.
experience and all this information that you don't care to find out who it is that killed Professor Markel.
This is not that I don't care to find out. My job is to take care of those boys, and that is what I do. I don't see how it helps take care of them to go reading and watching and soaking up all of the horrible information that's out there.
You don't realize that you could be helpful in finally untangling this to give this jury the truth about what happened to
Yes!
Professor Markel?
I have been nothing but helpful since this started.
So what happened to their son? By you looking at it, you are at the center of all this, but you won't look at anything to help in the process.
I've done nothing but help in this process.
You came here and testified.
I came here and testified. I spoke to the police for 6 hours without anyone present. I signed over my cell phone, my car, my house, everything.
And you know, Wendi, sorry, I'm yelling at Wendi. You know, Wendi, that it was your choice. You have that option. You could have had counsel, and you were honestly pampered that entire fucking time. Look at her face, by the way.
Peter, what else do I have or know that you haven't seen?
You came here because you were subpoenaed and had no choice.
Yep.
Correct.
Right?
This is not fun. I would not do this by choice.
You've been inconvenienced.
I've not been inconvenienced.
Professor Markel was shot in the head.
You're so silly.
I'm not complaining about being here. This is my duty. I'm here.
We'll get back to you complaining about being here. Do you honestly expect this jury to believe that you haven't confronted your brother about all of this?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you did confront him?
Yes, I do expect them to believe that I did not confront my brother because I didn't.
Or maybe you don't need to because you know the truth in this case. You already know it. That he went behind your back, right?
Did not happen.
Just like he has done with past boyfriends. He's done that in the past where he's gone behind your back when you were having problems in a relationship and dealt with it himself.
No.
Ms. Adelson, you understand that until you expose your brother what he did, that everybody's going to consider you as guilty. You understand that, right?
What is the question that you're asking me?
Oh my God.
You understand that until you expose your brother and explain what he did, that he went behind everybody's back, that he hired a hitman to murder your ex-husband, you'll remain guilty in the eyes of the world.
I can't speak to the eyes of the world. I can only know that I have done nothing wrong.
Or maybe you are guilty.
God.
I am not guilty.
So a witness in this case, and I'm not going to get into their testimony, but one of the hitmen, the convicted hitman, implicates you. On July 17, 2014, the day before the murder, the morning before, he says that you were walking on Trescott with the two boys, that you walked down the driveway and into the house.
That never happened.
Right, because Professor Markel, Professor Markel, he had the kids. Based on the way that your guy's schedule was, on that day, he would have had the children in the morning, and you're going through such a bad divorce, you wouldn't be at his house, right?
I wouldn't be at his house anyway, but not because we were going through a bad divorce. At that time, things were pretty copacetic.
All right, so we're coming back to maybe you do know, or maybe you were
the actual fuck?
Excuse me? What's the question that you're asking me?
I'm giving you a header of what we're talking about so that will ease you in the question, okay? I'm just telling you what the topic that we're on, so we'll get to a question. Now, the government asked you about a time that you met Ms. Magbanua. It was actually spring break of March 2014, right?
I believe so.
You went down to Miami. You stayed with your brother, Charles.
I went down to Fort Lauderdale after being in Immaturity and stayed with my brother.
You then went to Miami Beach to Yardbird and had dinner outside with your boyfriend at the time, or who you were dating, Jeffrey Lacasse. Katie Magbanua was there, and your brother, Charles Adelson, and you all ate outside, right?
We did.
And that's on Miami Beach, not in Fort Lauderdale.
Correct.
Now, just for context, Jeffrey Lacasse, he was also an FSU professor, not at the law school, but an FSU professor. Nice guy, right?
I don't think so now.
Oh my God, dude.
You deny.
The fuck?
I'm assuming that on July 13, 2014, you told Jeffrey Lacasse that Charles looked into hiring a hitman. You deny that, or you admit that?
I deny that.
And that you told him that Charles looked into hiring a hitman back in September of 2013.
That never happened.
Which would have been months before your brother even met Katie Magbanua.
I don't remember when they met.
Letting you know the topic we're on, we're talking about you being involved. That same week, earlier in the week, you sent an email. We're talking about the week of the murder now, not spring break, the week of the murder, not Yardbird, the week of the murder. You sent an email to Jeffrey Lacasse saying that you wanted to break up, that you needed space, right?
I did.
Sent him a long email. Stay away. We're broken up.
So this is really important because for anyone who's not as well familiar with the case, it becomes very clear, and we're going to hear it as well from Jeff's testimony, that the initial plan, and again, this is another thing that is when we talk about things that they can use to prove Wendi's knowledge, prior knowledge and involvement, the whole thing about about Jeff, because the goal was to have Jeff set up to be the fall guy. And the whole plan was for them to do this, by them, I mean the family, to do this when Jeff was going to be like in the area or whatever, right? And so it's like, when he was going to be in town and then like leaving town for other things to try to make it look like he fled. And the other thing is that's why the hitman rented a Prius, because it looked similar to Jeff's car. And so the funny thing here is that he changed his plans last minute and Wendi didn't know about it. But we'll hear him talk about it. But that's what he's getting to with this email, because the whole thing is like she had broken up with him. And then like right before the murder, she's like, hey, let's meet up again or whatever. And like go to yoga. And then like at the end of that whole thing, and he said it was really awkward. At the end of that whole thing, she's like, hey, are you still leaving town or whatever? And trying to get him to confirm his plans. And he was like, this is weird. So.
Right?
He did.
You knew that on July 18, 2014, Jeffrey Lacasse was leaving town to go on a trip, right?
I knew he was leaving at some point that week. I don't remember when.
Yeah.
You knew that he was leaving on the same day of the murder at the same exact time as the murder.
I don't think I did.
11 a.m. on July 18, 2014.
I don't think I knew when he was leaving town.
I would imagine they have eyes on her. I mean,
It's a good way to put the blame onto somebody else. You'd agree on that, right? If it happened, it would have been a good way to put the blame on somebody else.
aha.
I have no idea when he was going to leave town.
Your interview, July 18, 2014, you said, my brother, he joked about hiring a hitman. Perhaps that was you just planting a seed to divert the attention of law enforcement away from you.
Yes. Preach.
Let's
Facts.
jump off topic right now and talk about your boy.
Dude, this defense attorney is my favorite right now because he's just yes.
His names. That in the time after the murder, you changed their last names.
Jeff is Wendi's ex-boyfriend. He was her boyfriend at the time. And he is one of the most crucial witnesses in this case, and he's going to testify right after her.
Markel to Adelson, right?
A year later, yes.
Why?
I was scared
Of what?
Oh God.
of someone coming to attack them.
So it's a year later, you won't look at anything because you don't want to know what's going on in the case. And the thought is, well, they're going to be protected if they have my last name and not Markel, right?
Dude, if I will personally track her down with my squirrel senses and find her and wrangle her back so she can face justice.
Now, years later, arrests are made. It's clear who committed the murder, Sigfredo Garcia, Luis Rivera. The Adelson name has been dragged through the mud. Why haven't you continued to protect your boys and change the name back?
I will be changing. I'm not going to change the name back. I don't think that will help. One day I'll change all of our names.
The government asked you about
like when you try to flee and join a witness protection program. I guess you couldn't do that, but like, I know, just interesting, right? Change all of their names. I mean, that could speaking of fleeing, right? That could be a way to try to do that.
So let's get into that.
Hi, Victory.
You explained that as an attorney, you understand that when the government gives a subpoena for somebody to testify, that it conveys immunity.
Agreed.
Right?
I agree. Jeff does seem like a good dude. I completely agree. He's awesome. He's freaking awesome.
My understanding, my knowledge of criminal law dates back to 2003 when I took a semester in law school. So forgive me.
Graduated law school, right?
This isn't my area of law.
When you clerked on the 11th Circuit, it was with Judge Jordan, right?
I did immigration appeals.
Yeah, but you still dealt with criminal stuff as well, too.
Very little.
So your understanding, though, is it doesn't mean they can't arrest you. They just can't use what you say here against you later on. So you're protected.
Correct.
And you needed that to testify, right?
It's just given to testify. It's not a question of whether I needed it. It comes with testifying.
You fear.
Oh, thank you so much.
By them, so you need to have that protection of
I
your
don't
words.
fear being charged for a crime I didn't commit. No.
Now,
Gross,
it all has this
Wendi.
nice exchange where it was pleasant, but there's actually tension between you and this office, right?
No.
They recently had your brother Charles Adelson arrested, and he's
There
in
it
custody,
is.
right?
Correct.
For first-degree murder.
Fuck yeah.
And there's no tension.
It's very uncomfortable to be here. It's hard to tell where the tension is coming from.
They discussed your involvement in this case. They insinuated it on the direct examination. There's no tension.
Lots of media insinuates that I did something I didn't do too. I can't feel tension towards every person in the
Yeah,
world.
but you know what? The media can't charge you with a crime, Wendi, and the prosecution certainly can. So that's bullshit.
It's funny. I thought you didn't look at anything.
I don't. That's why.
But
Oh,
you know that you know about the media, but you don't know about the media.
I know about the media because it keeps me from.
hold on. This attorney's doing a great job. I'm going to back it up because I was making sounds because this is so good. Look at her face. Every time I pause it, it's a great, like, it's a face like this. Or she just constantly is outdoing herself with the Wendi faces. Y'all, this is so insane. This attorney's doing a great job.
this nice exchange where it was pleasant, but there's actually tension between you and this office, right?
No.
They recently had your brother, Charles Adelson, arrested, and he's in custody, right?
A month ago.
For first-degree murder.
Trial.
Correct.
And there's no tension?
It's very uncomfortable to be here. It's hard to tell where the tension is coming from.
They've discussed your involvement in this case. They insinuated on the direct examination. There's no tension?
Lots of media insinuates that I did something I didn't do too. I can't feel tension towards every person in the world.
That's funny. I thought you didn't look at anything.
That's
Yes.
why.
But you know that you know about the media, but you don't know about the media?
I know about the media because it keeps me from employment. It keeps me from lots of things in my life. I'm aware of what's there, but I don't read the minutia so I can sleep at night.
Ms. Adelson, 5 minutes ago, you said you don't look at any of that stuff.
I
Now I
don't
asked you a
look at
question.
it.
Let me finish.
Sure.
5 minutes ago, you say you don't look at any of that stuff.
Wow.
Now I ask you a question, you say you look at stuff.
That's not actually what I said. I said I'm aware that it exists, but I don't read it. I don't listen to it.
Then how do you know that they're bashing you?
You just told me they are.
I did?
Yeah.
How about this? We'll come back to it. You can think up a better answer, okay?
I'm not thinking up an answer. I'm telling you the truth. I'm sorry if you don't want to listen to it.
Your basic understanding of criminal law, though, you know that if the defense gives you a subpoena, you get no immunity.
Correction, improper question.
I'm not going beyond that question.
All right, that's the only question you can ask on that.
If I give you a subpoena, you don't get immunity, right?
Correct.
Let's talk about your parents. The government asked you about your mother and father.
Interesting. So what that means is if they, in the defense's case in chief, if they subpoena her, then her testimony can be used against her. She doesn't have that protection. Interesting.
Donna and Harvey, right? The government could do the same and subpoena them so that this jury can watch them get questioned, not nicely how Ms. Kaplan questioned you, but to be cross-examined by me.
Objection, improper question.
I'm going to sustain that. Ask a different question.
Are your parents here in Tallahassee right now?
No.
Are they back in Miami?
Yes.
Do they have any plans of coming here this week or next?
I don't think so.
By the way, so the parent, Donna and Harvey, they didn't attend any of the trials, not even Charlie's. They had their own son. They didn't attend any of the trials. Although, having said that, they were packing.
Your family dynamic.
Yeah.
It is your mother and father, Harvey and Donna. There's you, you're the youngest, Charles, and then the oldest, Robert. Right?
Correct.
And he's a doctor up in New York.
Correct.
Now, the government asked you about the relationship, and you're like, we don't talk much. It's actually much deeper than that with Robert.
Yes! Get
We
it.
don't talk
At all.
at all.
And the reason is because your parents were so difficult about the woman that is now his wife.
That is not the reason why we don't talk.
I'm not talking about the reason why you don't talk. Let me clarify the reason why your parents don't talk to him.
That's not the reason why they don't talk to them.
Are you saying to this jury that there wasn't a problem where they outright objected to his marriage of a woman that was not of the Jewish faith?
That was initially what happened. And then there was actually a beautiful reconciliation and
No.
they're very happy about the marriage.
No. Well,
Robert and his wife,
No.
not your family.
Robert and his wife and our family were very happy about Robert's
no.
marriage.
So
She's
what happens
lying.
is that Robert is in love with a woman. Your parents object. He breaks up with her and then dates a Jewish woman, right?
And then they got married and divorced. And then he got back together with the person he wanted to be married to. Yes.
With his true love.
Yes.
But there was a lot of tension in your family because of your family's involvement in the kids' marriages, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's talk briefly
Here's the
about your-
thing. That's a great point to make. That it's, in other words, it's not just Wendy's marriage that the family was meddling in. That's a really good point. And remember, we're going to hear from Robert at Donna's trial. Wow. You know, one thing he could speak to, now we don't know what he'll say, but one thing he could speak to is if this is like a pattern, right? Dude. Wow.
your children. The government had asked you, and the topic of the Jewish faith, keeping kosher. You mentioned a bat mitzvah at one point in time. You're currently planning a bat mitzvah for your oldest, right?
No, it already happened.
Okay, now that is a very, now, Christopher, I'm obviously not Jewish, but my understanding is that it is a very, very important thing in the Jewish faith.
It's a very important milestone.
And for those that are very conservative in the Jewish faith, those that keep kosher, so to speak, it's even bigger.
I don't know that it's more important to one segment of Judaism over another, but it's an important coming of age ceremony.
It's where a boy becomes a man. Did you invite
Or a man becomes a woman? No,
Markel's parents, the kid's grandparents?
They did.
no she
You
did
invited
not.
them.
That's a
Invited them,
lie.
yeah.
When was the last time they saw face-to-face their
She did not
grandchildren?
like them.
April 20th,
Of this year?
just now.
And you agree with me that it had been years since 2016, since the last time they had seen them.
The visit stopped when they threatened to put my children in foster care, yes. But up until
That's
that point,
not
we just had a
accurate
visit.
either. Oh my God, this lady, I swear.
No problem letting them see your brother Charles, right?
I'm sorry?
You have no problem letting them hang out with your brother Charles, who's now sitting in custody for first-degree murder.
Well, they can't see him now, can they?
No, they can't, but I'll ask the questions. For years, they weren't able to see their grandchildren despite their pleading to you to see them, but you let me finish, but you let them hang out with your murdering brother, right?
The children were permitted to see their grandparents. I cooked for them. We had play dates. They had sleepovers. When a letter surfaced that they were trying to have my children placed in foster care, the visits stopped. My brother never threatened to put my children in foster care, and if he had, the visits would have stopped with him too.
You say you love your boys.
I do say I love my children.
Don't care about the father that they love.
I never said that I don't care about the father.
Then look at some of the discovery and help figure it out.
Excuse me?
Then look at some of the evidence and help figure it out so that more lives aren't ruined by this.
I seem to not understand.
You need to ask a question now. You're making statements now. You need to ask a question.
Understood, Your Honor. If I could have one brief second to check with co-counsel.
Her stupid water. God, she's just, wow.
Ms. Adelson, we started this by saying that this is all about you. It started with you because of this marriage, right?
No. Well, you would try to say that, but I don't agree.
Ms. Adelson, I'm going to make one final attempt through questions to implore you. You understand that you can't protect your brother Charles, who's going through this case, and protect yourself at the same time. You understand that, right?
I'm here to share the truth with you. I don't know how to answer the question.
Then please end the madness and share the truth. Will you please share the truth with this juror?
I've been sharing the truth since I walked in here. I've done nothing but share the truth.
You know what happened here, despite your claims to the jury that you haven't looked at anything, you haven't discussed with anybody, and you haven't confronted your brother. You know what happened here, right?
I do not know what happened here. And if I did, I would have shared it with the police 8 years ago.
You know that your brother
The defense attorney.
went behind your back, don't you?
I do not.
Like he always does. This is something that he has always done, isn't it?
I know.
You found out after that your brother had done this and gone behind your back. That's why you were thrown up at that dinner, right?
No, it's not.
You know that it didn't involve Katie either, right?
I don't know anything about it.
If you're not going to say all of that and finally give the truth, why don't you just admit to this jury that you're guilty?
Because I'm not guilty.
Brief moment, John.
Ooh, she's getting worked up. Drink some more water.
Redirect.
I love this comment though. Thank you, Scott, for that.
You were asked about the reason why you stopped contact for a period of time between your ex-husband's parents and your children.
Yes.
And you referenced a letter that you characterized as the grandparents threatening to put the children into foster care.
Thank you. I like you guys. Did you hear me over here chiming in? Like, that's not accurate. That's lies. Anyway, so George is addressing this.
Is that an email that was sent from the Markels to my office?
Yes.
Okay. And that was in reference to, in the event that you and the people that care for these children, who at the time were very young, were arrested, that the grandparents wanted to make sure, because they live in Canada, right?
They do.
They wanted to make sure that a specific organization could be contacted to care for the children, so that someone was there to care for them until a relative could get there.
Okay, so this is addressing her, right? So he's trying to discredit her testimony. The thing is that she does it. It does that. She does that on, like, her testimony does that to itself. But yes, I mean, he started out his cross-examination by saying, you know, we're all here because of you, something along those lines. Like, this is all about you. We're all here because of you. I mean, which, you know, for someone who, like me, who is just waiting for that moment with Wendi, I just appreciate it so much. And he asked those questions, like, you know, oh, there was just so many of them. Like, why else would anyone have done this? Who else could have done it? I mean, basically, he spent the entire process trying to call her on her bullshit, like, to her involvement, which I'm okay with. You know. Yeah, I also like Georgia as well.
I don't remember the bit about a relative getting there.
Okay, well, they weren't just going to leave them in foster care, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh my God.
But the specific nature of the email, you will agree, was in the event that there's some kind of mass arrest, because they don't know who's getting ready to go to jail next, right? I mean, they're not privy to the investigation any more than you are, right? Law enforcement investigations, they're secret. Okay. And their concern, would you agree the concern ultimately in the email was for the care of the children?
The concern was to make sure the children were under good care, but as their mother, I know they're always under good care with me.
Right, but
and there's no need for
email
foster care.
contemplated
for
you not being available to care for them.
That's not possible.
Because it's not possible for you to get arrested.
Correct. Because I've done nothing wrong and I believe in our justice system.
Okay.
Famous last words.
Well, just wanted to clarify the nature of that.
Ooh.
In this case, you were asked about, why aren't your parents coming to testify? You, as you mentioned, gave a police interview in this case, right?
Correct.
And consented to the search of your phone, etc. You gave testimony in this case, right?
Yes.
All right. And your parents did not, correct?
They did not give testimony.
They have not testified. They
They've
have
been
not
asked
given a
to
police.
come testify, but they would if they were asked.
Okay. And have they given any police
think so?
interviews?
They would have, but the police never contacted them.
Police did contact them, didn't they? And they refused.
No,
Are they represented by counsel?
they are represented by
Right.
counsel.
And they'll come testify if we wanted to.
If they are under state subpoena, just like I was, they would come testify.
All right. And do you know what they would testify to?
They would testify to whatever they know.
And do you know what they know?
I have no idea what they know.
Okay. They've never told you.
No.
You never asked them
No,
because you never had any conversations with them about this murder.
I've been advised by my counsel not to.
You mean
All
subpoena?
right. So nobody, including your brother Charlie, has admitted or denied to you any involvement in the murder one way or the other.
Correct.
Same with your parents.
Correct.
If you by invited, that's so cute. If you mean by invited, if you mean subpoenaed, Harvey again, I think he just sort of whatever. I don't think he really. I mean, what do you guys think? Those of you guys who've been following this, I don't see them coming for Harvey. I don't think he really was involved in the way that everybody else was. I think Donna just ran the show as far as them two go. But here's the thing. As far as Donna being subpoenaed, I don't know why, but what I will say is this. I love it even more that the first time that they ask her to do anything, essentially not even ask, right? They show up to arrest her in the airport, right? In other words, that's the first thing, just fuck the subpoenas, right? We'll just wait until we can arrest you. Love it.
All right. One moment, please, Your Honor.
Okay.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank
You want a subject to recall?
you. No, sir. She's free to go about her business.
All right, you're free to go. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we're going to watch her. Let's watch her walk out of the courtroom. She's getting out of there.
All right, let's put Miss Rodriguez back on the stand and
Okay. We're not going to watch Miss Rue. We're going to go. I think we've got law enforcement. Here he is. We're watching Jeff. Okay. Ready? One of I would say the most crucial witness in this case.
Statement call its next witness.
Here we go.
Your Honor, the state calls Jeffrey Lacasse.
Jeffrey Lacasse, please.
Get it, Jeff. Get it. Here he comes. He was so, yeah. Yep.
Good morning. Please go up to the witness stand. Before you have a seat, we're going to swear you in. Please raise your right hand, respond to the clerk.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Got a
You
little
got a
horsey thing. Wow. Interesting.
Sir, please say your name and spell your name.
My name is Jeffrey Lacasse, Jeffrey Lacasse.
How are you employed, sir?
I'm currently an associate professor at Florida State University
How long have you been so employed?
since 2013.
All right, and I want to draw your attention back to 2014. Did you have a relationship with Wendi Adelson?
I did.
What type of relationship
Unfortunately.
was that?
She was my girlfriend for about 4 months.
When did that relationship begin?
We dated in the fall of 2013, but casually, we became a serious couple, I would say, around February of 2014.
And when did the relationship end?
Well, that's a little tricky, but in July of 2014.
All right,
Yeah.
And during the time that you were together with Ms. Adelson, did you become aware of her recent divorce?
I did. On our first couple of dates, that was a topic of conversation. That's in the fall of 2013.
There it
And
is.
did you get an impression as to what type of divorce that was or how it would be characterized?
An extremely contentious divorce.
All right. And during the time that you dated her, were you aware of any specific ongoing litigation with her ex-husband?
I was, particularly in February of 2014, because Ms. Adelson would react badly as that litigation proceeded. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
Yes.
And what specific litigation was the topic of discussion in your relationship with her?
Can you restate that, please?
What was there specific litigation that was the topic of discussion?
I recall a motion filed in February of 2014 where Danny had made some accusations that seemed serious, and Ms. Adelson reacted poorly. As a matter of fact, every time he filed something, she tended to react poorly.
Specifically, did you have knowledge through your relationship with Mrs. Adelson about her about a motion that had been filed by her ex-husband that was requesting that her mother not have contact with the children unless it was supervised.
Yes, I do recall that.
All right, and was that one of the items that she was really upset over?
Yes, there were many, but that was one for sure.
Okay, so fair to say she took that litigation or that filing very seriously?
Yeah, she took every filing and every point in every motion very seriously, was my impression.
What about her mother, Donna Adelson? Do you have any personal knowledge as to how Donna Adelson took that particular filing about her having contact with the kids?
No, I do not.
Oh, she was pissed. Donna
Did you
was
know Dan Markel?
I didn't know Dan Markel. I met Dan Markel on a handful of occasions for a few minutes on each occasion.
Any issues between the two of you?
No, I mean, he was my new girlfriend's ex-husband, so I was listening to Wendi Adelson describe him in terrible terms regularly.
Right.
But in terms of us having an actual conflict, no, ma'am, never.
No negative words ever spoken between the
Oh
two
no,
of you?
always very polite and cordial to one another when we interacted.
yeah, because they're both
Were you
mature dudes.
specifically aware of the litigation concerning Wendi Adelson's desire to relocate to South Florida with her children?
Yes, that was a big topic of conversation on our first couple of dates because it had just been denied a few months previous.
Okay, why, if you know, did Wendi Adelson want to relocate to South Florida?
She despised living in Tallahassee and wanted to live in Miami.
And what was in
But
Miami?
one thing that's important here, guys, is you have to think about, the jury, right? They're in Tallahassee and there's this jury, and the jury in all of these trials is hearing repeatedly about just the contempt that Wendi had for Tallahassee and the way she describes it in her book, like they're just like country bumpkins and just like they're just like she just like shits on them basically. And for no reason, you know what I mean? It's just like this whole thing. And so anyway, I just wanted to point that out for anyone who wasn't familiar.
Well, her parents,
Yep.
But there's multiple reasons. Chief among those reasons would be the fact that her parents and brother were down there.
How would you characterize her relationship with her parents and brother?
Extremely close.
Did Wendi Adelson ever make a joke in your presence about her TV?
Yes, ma'am, she did. In October of 2013, the first time I went to her house on Aqua Ridge, and we were going to watch a movie,
Here we go.
she made a joke, which she characterized as her brother's joke, but she was the one telling it that, her brother looked into hiring a hitman, but a TV was cheaper. And I heard her repeat that joke on a later occasion.
All right, so you heard that joke a couple times.
At least twice.
From
yes.
her, which is interesting.
During your time in your relationship with Wendi Adelson, did you ever have any occasion to meet her family members?
Yes.
What family members did you meet?
Donna Adelson came in, I believe, October, November of 2013, and we had dinner. Spoke to her very briefly.
Were you
All right,
terrified?
is that the only family member?
No, I also met Donna and Harvey would travel up here, and I would have very limited small talk with them because they took care of the kids when we would go on a date. But I didn't have a lot more interaction than that because it was sort of a secretive thing they seemed secretive in nature when we would return from one of those dates. Wendi Adelson would never invite me inside the house.
Ooh.
And when we were all in a group setting, say at the circus or downtown Get Down, Wendi and I would talk. The parents would be over here.
Wow.
Just never said much to me.
All right, so they didn't have too much interest in you, it seemed.
No, they were polite but cold.
All right.
Wow.
And what about in Miami? Did you ever take any trips to Miami?
I did take one trip to Miami with Wendi in March of 2014.
And what family members did you spend time with on that trip?
We met with her brother, Charles Adelson, and we stayed at his house for one evening.
Ooh, the hot tub night?
And was that the same evening that you came to meet Catherine Magbanua?
Yes, we had dinner with Catherine Magbanua and Charlie Adelson prior to going to his house.
This
Yeah.
is
All
the
right,
hot
and this
tub
was in
night.
March of 2014?
Yes, it was during spring break. Wendi Adelson and I had went for alternative spring break, and it's Wednesday or Thursday of that week. We traveled to Miami to meet Charles Adelson was the point.
All right. And how was Ms. Magbanua introduced to you?
I don't recall exactly the word. It was clearly a dating relationship and a fairly new one. I couldn't tell you whether he said girlfriend or not, but it was a new romantic interest
My
Charlie Adelson.
of Charles Adelson.
my last.
All right.
My
So the four of you have dinner in Miami, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you know the date of that dinner? It's okay.
gal.
Definitely March of 14.
Yes, between like March 10th and 14th of 14.
All right. And so you had dinner with was that the only time you ever had any contact with Catherine Magbanua?
Yes.
All right. So you may not be able to identify her, but if you can, is she
It's
present in the courtroom?
Oh, I can identify her.
It
Catherine
is, it's
Magbanua.
wild that she was there that night and that they met. Like,
Please point her out and describe what she's wearing.
Catherine Magbanua is sitting in the dark suit between her attorneys, who I recognize as Christopher DeCoste and Tara Kawas.
All right. Thank you. Let the record reflect the witnesses identify the defendant.
Those are dirties.
When you and Wendi Adelson had dinner with Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanua, did you get the impression that this was the first time that Wendi had ever met Magbanua?
I got that rough impression because I don't recall a great deal about that meeting, but I do remember some getting to know you talk that would have been abnormal if they had a long-standing relationship. So they were talking about their life situations and such in an introductory way. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did Wendi at any time express to you any particular enthusiasm about this woman as opposed to any of her brother's other girlfriends?
Yeah, prior to the meeting, she seemed very excited about the fact that her brother was dating Catherine.
All right. And was that surprising?
Yes, a little bit. After dinner, it seemed a little surprising. It wasn't quite once we had dinner, it wasn't quite what I had expected given Wendy's descriptions.
All right. And
interesting.
Had you been through this with Wendi before? Your relationship was relatively new as well.
Yeah.
Do you have personal knowledge about the way Wendi typically reacted to Charlie's girlfriends?
I don't recall exactly that. I don't.
Okay. It's interesting though, having just heard Wendy's testimony about Katie, and like this is just very different from that.
Did anything unusual happen at the dinner?
Well, there's two things that stuck out to me. The first one was that Wendi Adelson had kind of a complex about being a single mom because Charlie had told her that no man wants to date a single mom. So we had this conversation repeatedly. And then I show up to dinner and Charlie's dating a single mom. So that was a little surprising.
Wow.
The other thing that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Specifically, did the fact that we talked about the fact that she's a single mom,
yes.
Did it come up any information about her child's father?
Yes, exactly. So that was the second thing that was surprising, that this sticks out to me, is during that getting to know you small talk, Ms. Magbanua had mentioned that the father of her children had interactions with
I'm only going to object because
talking about Alfredo, baby daddy.
First time I'm ever hearing of the statement of my client being used.
What's your objection?
The discovery violation under the Richardson hearing. I've never heard this
What?
statement of my client ever in the past 6 years of this case.
Did you have the opportunity?
Okay, that's a lot. They're objecting, the defense is objecting and saying discovery violation, asking for a Richardson hearing.
Did you take his deposition?
Yes, and it wasn't mentioned.
All right. Well, if it's not asked, then you can't mention.
So for any of you guys who were there for BK, remember we were talking about depositions, and remember when I was telling Denise how like in Florida in criminal trials everybody gets a deposition. So that's what we just heard, that they took his deposition because every witness does. They do that with every witness, and that it wasn't mentioned in his deposition. Florida's unique in that sense. Everybody gets deposed. So
Discovery violation under the Richardson hearing. I've never heard this statement of my client ever in the past 6 years of this case.
Did you have the opportunity to take his deposition?
Yes, and it wasn't mentioned.
All right. Well, if it's not asked, then you can't mention it. So that's overruled. You can proceed.
Mr. Lacasse, is this the first time you've ever mentioned this?
the judge is saying because they didn't ask, he can't be expected to have given that answer. The distinction being that Georgia asked a question that elicited that answer. Now, it's not the witness's fault, right? He's just answering questions. That's why the questions are so important as an attorney.
Statement?
It is not.
Okay, when have you mentioned it before?
I talked to Investigator Isom between March and May of 2015.
Yeah.
Because he had called inquiring about Ms. Magbanua about a year and a half before she was arrested.
Okay, and you previously given
now this matter. So in other words, okay, and see, we've already heard that statement from his interviews, right? So it is kind of like BS from that defense objection because they've seen his interviews as well. So even if he didn't make that statement when they deposed him, they have already watched his interviews and they've already heard him say this. Like, this is no secret, right, about the baby daddy.
This matter as well?
Wait, again, please.
Have you previously given testimony in this matter, the same case?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I testify her all the time.
If any, did Ms. Magbanua make about her child's father?
Yeah. So I cannot recall every exact word. I remember references to fighting, the word police, and he definitely had a criminal record, which didn't sound like speeding tickets. It sounded serious.
Okay. And you never had the opportunity to meet her child's father, did you?
No, I never met him.
Okay. Did Charlie participate at all in that conversation?
We were all there. We were all engaged.
But he didn't specifically say anything relevant. Like,
I don't recall.
Hey,
anything.
I know that guy.
No,
For example.
Did not say anything quite like that I recall. This is a dinner, almost 9 years ago now.
I know. Do you recall who paid for dinner?
Charlie did.
And do you recall how he paid for dinner?
I do not.
All right. Do you know whether Charlie carried large amounts of cash?
Cash?
I do not know if he carried large amounts of cash. Wendi mentioned the fact that he certainly stored large amounts of cash in shoeboxes in his home.
All right. And did you know, or do you know whether or not Charlie Adelson runs a cash business?
That was what I was told by Wendi Adelson.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right. So what happens after dinner?
After dinner, we go to yogurt, had a quick dessert, and then Miss Magbanua
Yogurt.
departed, and Wendi Adelson drove me to Charlie Adelson's house. At which point, I do recall observing that she was unusually jittery and being strange. I didn't know what to make of it at the time.
And we're talking about Wendi Adelson.
Yeah, Wendi Adelson driving me to Charlie's house.
All right. So when you go back to Charlie's house, is it just you and Wendi and Charlie there?
Yes, as well as Charlie's then roommate, Jerome Obed, was there as well.
All right. And that's the dermatologist?
Yes.
Okay. And so during the time that y'all were hanging out at the house after dinner, did the topic of Dan Markel come up?
It did.
In what regard?
Well, he didn't go anywhere with Wendi without hearing about Dan Markel, so it wasn't
There it is.
typical. But there was
Bam.
talk
Like I
about
said,
the divorce, the post-divorce litigation. There was negative talk about Danny. I recall Charlie getting a little heated up in the hot tub
in the
about
hot tub.
Danny.
So y'all were in the hot tub
We were in the hot tub.
and Charlie was expressing some negative words against Dan Markel?
Yes, strong negative words. And I also had a constant stream of comments from Wendi about what Charlie thought that Charlie hated Danny's, guts.
Want to talk about the incident that occurred at the coffee shop on June 4th of 2014? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened at the coffee shop? Was that here in Tallahassee?
That was at Red Eye Coffee. I had met Wendi for a cup of coffee. I had an appointment in the same building later, so we just met up. And a couple of things happened on that day, but at the coffee shop, Wendi canceled a trip that we had planned for her to come meet my parents in California, which was scheduled for July 11th.
Yeah, this one's weird. This is the good one.
And she said she canceled that trip because she was concerned we wouldn't get back in time to pick up the kids on the 18th, which didn't make a whole lot of sense.
So for anyone, again, who's newer to this case, a lot of this matters because when the hitmen finally got and they killed Dan Markel, that was not the first time. There was a failed attempt previously. So part of what they're going to be proving and have been proving, but are going to continue to prove, right, with all these subsequent trials, is like patterns of behavior from the first time, right? And then similarly again for the second time. I mean, just of course that's showing orchestration, planning, knowledge, all that. And remember, let me just unshare. Remember, both times the plan was to try to set him up to be the fall guy. So.
We then discussed rescheduling the trip. It wasn't anything I objected to strongly or anything like that, but it was weird.
The plan originally was for you to return to Tallahassee on the 17th
Yes.
and then for her to take custody of her kids from Dan Markel on the 18th?
Yes.
Okay. And she canceled the trip because why?
Because our flight might get delayed in the middle of summer and we would get stranded and not be able to be there to pick up the kids. And she had to pick up the kids on the 18th.
Okay.
So this is.
Did you see her later that night?
Yes, I went to her house and hung out with her and her children that night.
All right. And was there anything unusual about her behavior on the night of June 4th, 2014?
Definitely. She was a nervous wreck. And I actually traveled to the store to buy her, I believe, some Pepto-Bismol because she was such a nervous wreck. She was having stomach problems. So she wasn't food poisoned. She didn't have the flu. She wasn't sick. She was just so nervous that she was having stomach problems.
All right. Tell us about the way the beginning of the end of your relationship.
Can you give me a date?
My understanding is there was a big fight on June 29th.
Yeah. So we traveled to Gainesville together. I had a work trip in Gainesville, and Ms. Adelson accompanied me. And the relationship had been a little bit of, it'd been a huge roller coaster of up and down and love bombing, and I received a lot of manipulation and lying. And on, I guess it was the night, June 28th, that Saturday, we had a relationship conflict. We had I don't know if argument's quite the right word, but I was kind of tired of being strung along, and which is what it felt like. I couldn't figure out why I was being strung along, but that's what it felt like. And we sort of had it.
All right. So when was the next time you saw her after the big fight?
Couldn't figure out why he was being strung along.
Well, the next day we drove from Gainesville up to Tallahassee. So I saw her then, and I dropped her off at her house. It was a very awkward, multiple hour trip from Gainesville to Tallahassee.
All right. And did that feel like the end of the relationship at that time?
It wasn't great, but no, it didn't feel like the end. No, in fact, she said otherwise. I mean, I actually distinctly remember the party in her house and her saying that this was not the end. But as I said, I felt like I was being strung along, where it was a constant roller coaster in a way that seemed purposeful and manipulative.
All right, so that takes us to June 30th of 2014, when you part ways after this sort of bad trip to Gainesville.
Yes, I drop her off at her house on Aqua Ridge, and yeah, right.
When do you see her next after that?
I see her next July 13th after she had spent 2 weeks in South Florida. We did have communications in that time period, but I didn't see her.
And was she, do you know the dates that she was in South Florida?
She told me that the day after I dropped her off, which I guess is June 30th, that she had headed to South Florida and that she had returned July 30th. I don't know if that's true. That's just what she told me.
July 30th?
Excuse me, June 30th to June 30th to July 13th. Supposedly I was seeing her upon her return to Tallahassee.
Okay.
I just don't know if that's true. I don't know what day she actually got.
Okay. She represented, she'd been in South Florida. So you see her, so it's been a couple
Remember,
weeks.
she was
since
cheating
Big Fight.
on him. with,
And
like,
where did you see her?
I talked on the phone in the interim, and long story short, decided to keep going, to not break up, to continue to pursue the relationship. So we had a date. I picked her up at her house. And we went to the movies and dinner.
All right. And did you return back to her residence after your date?
I did. We did.
Was there anything unusual about her behavior that evening?
Well, she made a very strange statement to me at the house.
Tell us about that, please.
Yeah. So we're walking into the house and we're having chit chat, and she says, "Can I tell something to you confidentially?"
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Sure." And she tells me that last summer, when the relocation got denied, Charlie investigated multiple ways to fix this problem of Danny Markel, including hiring a hitman, and that it was going to cost about $15,000.
Now, one thing, I have a question for you guys. Why do you think Wendi told him this? Because I can't figure that one out for the life of me.
And I'm unsure if that number is 15,000 or 50,000 because they sound similar, but she told me that the previous summer, that Charlie had looked into having Danny killed by a hitman.
All right. So that would have been the summer of 2013.
Yes.
Okay. And when she told you this statement, you previously characterized the TV statement as a joke.
Mhm.
Was this statement also in the characterization of a joke?
No, these are two discrete, completely different things. She had a joke she would make about a TV being cheaper than a hitman. I knew that joke. This was a separate statement. This was chilling. This wasn't funny. This made my stomach flip. I found it disturbing at the time. It's completely different.
And the statement was made 5 days before the murder of Dan Markel
That's correct.
by a hitman.
That's right.
All right. I want to talk about the next day, which is going to be July 14th, 2014, the Monday before the murder. Did you see Wendi Adelson that day?
I did.
Good day.
I left the previous night by saying I had some hope for the relationship. I said, if this won't work out, just send me a text, and I won't be offended by that, and we'll just move on. But she contacted me the next day and said, I really want to spend time with you. So then she canceled plans in the middle of the day, and then we went to yoga.
Went to a yoga class together?
We attended a yoga class together, the most awkward yoga session.
Awkward yoga.
Okay. What happens after the awkward yoga session?
Well, during the yoga session, just as a 43-year-old man that's been in a few relationships, I'm thinking, okay, this looks like this is over. I just said bye. We walked to the car and exchanged words, and she didn't want to spend time with me Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and she had the whole week off without the kids. And then there was a couple other words exchanged, but it was clear to me I thought it was over at that point. So I turned and started walking away.
Okay. And did she call you back?
Yeah, she called after me. I turned around and she asked me, "Are you still going to Tennessee on Friday?" Because she had previously known that I was leaving for a trip to Tennessee at 11 a.m. on Friday, July 18th. And she had a series of questions about whether I was going. If I didn't go, why wouldn't I go? Despite seemingly.
The thing about this is this points to many things. Not just like trying to set him up to be the fall guy, but this is all, again, this is prior knowledge.
Just breaking up with me and not wanting to see me for the next 3 days, had a deep interest in what I was going to be doing on Friday.
All right. And your plan at that time was to leave Tallahassee by plane or car?
By car at approximately 11 a.m. And Wendi Adelson and I had discussed that in some detail previously because of other plans that eventually got canceled. But she was the only person aware, other than the people in Tennessee, that's when I was leaving.
And had you followed that plan, is it correct that you would have been departing Tallahassee and getting on I-10 at approximately the same time that the killers were?
Yes, not only that, but I would have driven within probably a couple miles of Dan Markel's house.
Right. And what type of vehicle would you have been in had you gone with that plan?
At that time, I was driving a 2004 four-door metallic gray Nissan Sentra.
All right. And are you familiar with the suspect vehicle in this case?
I am.
And would you characterize your vehicle as similar in appearance to that vehicle?
Yes, especially in profile, yes.
And are you aware that in her law enforcement interview, Wendi Adelson suggested you as a potential suspect?
I am aware of that.
And
Dude.
did you cooperate with the police in this case?
Yes, when I came back from Tennessee, they called me. I came in immediately and cooperated with them from the very beginning.
And were you able to provide an alibi that eliminated you as a suspect from committing this murder?
Yeah, pretty solid when they had me on videotape at a Kmart in Tennessee a couple hours after the murder, using my credit card with my cell phone showing me there. So it was pretty good alibi.
And is that because you did not follow the plan to leave at 11 a.m. on July 18th?
That's right. I left the previous evening about between 6 and 8 p.m. I changed my plans. I didn't
Good for
tell
him.
anybody except the people at the other end. I certainly didn't tell Wendi Adelson we weren't speaking. And so I was already out of the state by the time of the murder.
There you go. Any more questions from the state?
Do you have any knowledge about a celebration dinner that was had after the murder of Dan Markel?
I do. I eventually spoke to Wendi Adelson on the phone about 10 days after
I hope
the
so.
murder. I had a couple of phone conversations with her. And in one of them, she described attending what Charlie Adelson described as a celebration dinner.
And was that the dinner where she vomited at the table?
Yeah, she said she hadn't eaten food in so long that as soon as the food hit her stomach, she started
course.
vomiting.
All right. And were these
I
couple
think you're
phone
in the-
calls after the homicide
Tony, I think we're covering Adelson's right now.
the last contact that you had with Wendi Adelson?
Yes.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Cross-examination. I wonder, it's gonna be interesting to see how they handle this cross, because
I apologize, Mr. Lacasse. I'm gonna have to read off my laptop for my questions. Okay. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
It's been a while since we've seen each
Oh,
other.
wow.
Everything all right?
Everything's good.
Okay, so Mr. Lacasse, you are testifying today in this case under not only a state subpoena, but you received a defense subpoena as well, correct?
I did.
And you're testifying more specifically to explain to this jury what you know about Wendi Adelson, right?
Among other things, yes.
And you were dating Wendi Adelson up until, okay, up until 4 days before her husband was murdered.
Yes, well, that's a little tricky because Wendi Adelson had sent me an email after that yoga date saying, I need to think about things for another week. So please don't contact me until the following week. So when the murder happened, I was in a state of limbo as far as the relationship, even though I had a pretty bad feeling that this was over. Obviously, it's not good to get an email like that. But for some reason, she wanted us to be technically in limbo for another week was my perception.
So it was kind of like I guess a soft breakup, like it wasn't definitive, but hold on for a week until I get back to you kind of vibe.
Well, it was more, that's correct, ma'am, but it was more than that. It was bizarre.
Mhm.
Because we just had 2 weeks apart to think about things. And I could not figure out why she would want to drag it out for one more week.
Mhm.
And you'd characterize her behavior at this time as being strange, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Now, you previously said that if there was someone aside from her parents that spent a lot of time with her leading up to the murder, it was you.
In the spring of 2014, yes, to my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And you had previously told the detective that during the 9 months you were dating, you were spending about 80 to 90% of your nights with Wendi, right?
I don't recall saying 80 to 90% of my nights. Wendi was frequently in South Florida,
Mhm.
so and frequently traveling for business and things like that. So Wendi wasn't even in Tallahassee 70, I don't know percentage of the time, but she was infrequently here actually. So I spent a lot of time with her, but not so much in the fall, to be clear, and much more in January through June.
And would it be fair to say that any night that she didn't have the kids with her when she was free, she'd spend those nights with you?
A lot of them, not all of them.
Oh. And at that time you didn't have any kids of your own,
Correct.
and you saw firsthand how hard it is to be a single mother, right?
Yes.
From Wendi. And Wendi is different because she has a lot of help.
When her parents were in town, she had a lot of help. When she traveled to South Florida, she had a lot of help. When she was on her own, it was sometimes difficult. Yes, ma'am.
And Danny, or Professor Markel, he wasn't an absentee father, was he?
No.
Not at all, right?
No.
So she also had him actively helping her out as well too, with the care of the boys.
Well, she had a standing offer from Professor Markel to see the children more often and to be more actively involved than was strictly, allowed by the court paperwork. Yes, if that's what you mean.
Did you ever get the feeling that Wendi would use her children as almost like tools to get on Mr. Markel's nerves or to,
Hmm.
upset him in any way?
I hate to say this about a mother, but I saw her doing that in multiple domains,
Wow.
including as bait for me. I mean, I saw her doing that in multiple
Wow.
domains, yes.
And
Yeah.
you got close to the boys too, right?
I did. And whenever we had a fight or a problem, Wendi always invoked the children. That was her
Wow.
Her go-to excuse?
that was her way to continue stringing me along. It felt like
Wow.
I was very close to the children.
Wow.
And let's talk about
So Wendi used her kids to manipulate other people. Doesn't surprise me, but there it is.
her parents.
Yes,
Now, they live in South Florida at the time, right?
correct.
You ever made that drive before?
I made that drive a few times.
It's about 7 hours, right?
Yes, it's a
It's a
drive.
long, treacherous drive,
Yes,
right? I
yes.
only say that because Florida is just a very, not too much to see, it's just flat going straight for 7 hours, right?
Yes,
And isn't it true that her parents, anytime they would want Wendi to come down with the boys, they would actually drive up to Tallahassee, pick her up,
This is
and
crazy.
drive her back down?
that's what she reported. I want to be cautious because I know her to be a person that doesn't always tell me the truth, but that's what I was told. Yes.
Well, you just brought me into a whole new line of questioning.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about her ability to tell the truth.
Oh,
You know her very
boy.
well. You were dating her for a long time.
Well, a few months, seriously, but go ahead.
How would you describe her when it's
Oh,
trying to determine
my
whether or not she's
God.
telling the truth?
I
I
found her to
can
be
answer that. Just to go ahead and assume she's lying.
a deeply deceitful person and not that great at it. That was my impression.
Would she occasionally just put on a show, try to get people to feel sorry for her?
Wendi adopted the victim role as her default
No
social
kidding.
role, her way of getting attention, sympathy, etc. Yes.
Did she play the victim role to you about how awful Danny was to her?
Yes.
And did she constantly complain about that, what a terrible person he was to her?
Endlessly. Yes.
Okay, and this is, of course, all the only information you're getting from this is through Wendi Adelson's mouth, right?
95% of it. I mean, I also live in Tallahassee. We have a community. I heard some other things, but she had managed to persuade most of the rest of the community that what she was saying was true at the time.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
So would you say she did that frequently? Like she'd speak openly about how upset she was with her divorce?
Yes, it was the topic of conversation. If we went to dinner with friends, that's what we were going to talk about. Frankly, it got old.
And she
kidding.
worked at the same place he did, right?
Yes, they both worked at the College of Law.
So she was disparaging him amongst his colleagues as well too, right?
I can only, as far as what I witnessed, yeah, we went to dinner with some law professors where she did that
And
certainly.
she'd actively talk badly about her divorce in front of them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, one thing that Wendi was very vocal to you about during their relationship was how much she hated Tallahassee, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And that was almost a daily conversation, how much she hated living here.
Yeah. Danny was part one. How bad Tallahassee was part two.
There it
That was
is.
the plot of every day.
Yeah.
Basically.
And that's why you kind of say it started to get old, because those are basically the things that she would talk about over
Every
and over and
day.
over again.
Yes.
All day or day.
And she blamed Dan Markel for being stuck in Tallahassee. There's no question about that.
No, she did blame. Well, she blamed Dan Markel for getting her stuck in Tallahassee. Yes.
Had you ever heard her say that if something happened to him, she'd be able to go home?
Yeah, and that night that I related to Ms. Kappelman,
Wow.
June versus July 13th,
Mhm.
part of that conversation was if anything ever happened to Danny, she would probably, not probably, she would return to South Florida.
Now, and that's actually what happened in this case, right?
That's exactly what happened in this case. a week
Wow.
later. Yeah,
As soon as he was murdered, less than a week later, she was in
Beautiful.
South Florida.
that's my understanding.
Right. Now, you love living in Tallahassee, right?
I love Tallahassee. Yeah,
All right. And you chose to move here from Phoenix.
I did.
Didn't she think you were crazy from leaving Phoenix, a bigger city, than coming here?
I don't know if she said I was crazy, but it was. I'll put it this way: it was not possible to persuade her that Tallahassee had some redeeming attributes, and also that this wasn't the rest of her life. That at some point she would be able to leave when the children were older. That it was a very immature sort of take on it.
And you tried sometimes to, highlight the wonderful things about Tallahassee to her, but was that a fruitless effort?
That was always unsuccessful. I mean, I did my best, but it was like talking to a wall. I mean, she wrote a book where she shreds Tallahassee. I mean, she really doesn't like
Yep.
Tallahassee.
Isn't it true that she thought that she was better than the
Wendy's
people
book.
that live in Tallahassee?
Yeah.
And did you ever catch her crying uncontrollably because she felt that she was stuck here?
Multiple crying episodes. Yes, she would cry sometimes because she was stuck here. She also used to cry, especially in the months preceding the murder, for no reason that I could discern.
It was just crying. Did you ask her and she just wouldn't give you an answer?
Yeah, that was Wendy's typical pattern to be very non-specific.
Okay. And then, so, I've already asked you these. Did Wendi explain to you that Danny was emotionally abusive to her?
She used that term very frequently. And at the time, as the boyfriend, I sort of accepted that.
Right.
You were taking what she said as true.
Yes, it's a new relationship. But in retrospect, I can't think of a single thing she ever described that I would consider emotionally abusive.
She did tell you once, though, that, well, she felt this was emotionally disturbing to her, that Danny would make her sit in silence if they were to drive down to South Florida. She would drive, he would be in the passenger seat doing work, and that she would complain to you that that's something he would do, would make her sit in silence on the 7-hour drive.
Yeah, she said he did that one time, and I don't know if that's true or not, but she did say that. Yes.
And to be clear, this is just coming from Wendi Adelson. You have no evidence to support that what she's telling you is the truth.
I don't.
Now, did she describe him as a complete control freak? I'm sorry.
That rings a bell. Yeah.
Okay. And did she ever describe him as an absentee father to you?
What she described was that during the marriage, he was not quite as involved with the children and arguably would meet that label. And then after the divorce, became very engaged with the children.
Of course she did.
Which
Of course she did.
seen as
That
a
makes
positive.
sense for her.
She saw as a rather annoying inconvenience that he wanted to share the time with the kids.
Right. That makes
Now,
sense. She would do that.
Wendi was in her mid-30s when you two were dating back in 2014, right?
That's right.
Would you describe her as being self-sufficient?
No, I think I described her in past police interviews as a highly dependent person.
Interesting.
Who seemed to struggle with adult decision making and would often seek advice on things that you might expect from a 15-year-old or 18-year-old, but not
Wow.
a woman in her mid-30s. So that's right.
Wow.
And
Wow.
did your relationship with Wendi, was it so tumultuous that you actually ended up having to see a therapist about your relationship with her?
That's correct.
Wow.
Would you also describe her as having a public persona, being one way in public and another behind closed doors?
He did.
Yes, superficially charming, but I reported to the police that just a characteristic I found disturbing. We would have dinner with some people, the door closes, and people gossip, but it was like a 180 flip, and it would be vicious and very mean-spirited at
Wow.
a level that,
Completely different from how she was a moment before.
yes, not a way I talk about people. Yeah.
Now, and you'd say she's good actress, she's good at putting up a facade for people. Now, she's also admitted to you that she has lied in a deposition before, right?
Well, that's tricky because she may have lied about lying in a deposition.
Right? Oh,
Okay.
my God.
she told that to you, right?
She did, but my understanding is she lied about that. So there's lies on top of lies.
So
on
it
top
could
of-
be a lie about a lie.
and maybe a lie about, yeah, it gets a little confusing with, but it brings up an important point. She really enjoys
Wow.
mind games. And so I think that might have been a little bit of a mind game.
Oh, okay, so she may have just been throwing that out for some other ulterior purpose.
I don't know why she would disclose to me that she lied in a legal proceeding as an officer of a court and then turn out not to have lied in it. I mean, I got 100 stories like that.
No,
I mean,
and I would ask you,
Wow.
it would be as an attorney.
Yes.
I mean, it would be
Wow.
a violation of her ethical duties as a lawyer to lie on the oath,
Yep.
right?
Right, but then I go to the
Certainly
police in my
would.
first interview and I go, well, I really got one for you. She told me she lied in a deposition, and my understanding is she didn't. So there's a plotting kind of thing going on here.
All right.
Yeah.
So have you previously described her as a pathological liar?
Yes.
This is my
Now let's talk
yes.
about
Pathological
the
lie.
one time that you came
Yeah.
down to Miami
Yes.
and met Charles Adelson.
Yes.
Okay, so let's be clear. You met Charles Adelson once.
Correct.
You met Catherine Magbanua once.
Yes.
All right, and that was on that date that we talked about.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about that. So, because that dinner that night ended up getting a little strange when you guys went back to
It got strange,
Charlie's
all
house,
right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, describe for the jury, because they don't know anything about this restaurant. Describe Yardbird, because it's a restaurant that's on South Beach, correct?
Yeah, it's on South Beach. We were outside on a patio. You probably know Yardbird better than I've only been there once. It's a very nice restaurant.
They have like, all type of American-based food.
Yes. Yeah.
And you said something important. You were sitting outside.
We were sitting outside.
Okay, you and Wendi got there before Charles, right?
That sounds right, but I don't remember for
Okay,
sure.
and if we had text messages between, for example, Charles and Wendi, that would indicate you guys were outside, those would be reliable, waiting for them to get there, right?
I mean, that sounds right.
Okay, and he meets up with you there, and then Catherine meets up, and that's when you guys get introduced.
Right.
You remain outside while you're having dinner, right?
Correct.
Okay, and would it be fair to say, I mean, I know what Yardbird looks like, but members of the jury do not. So the where the patio is, it's right at a four-corner intersection, if I'm saying that correctly. So there could be cars across the way, correct?
Yes.
Cars parked to the right, cars parked to the left.
Yes.
But you're all clearly visible sitting down outside, correct?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Okay. So you're sitting there with Wendi,
Yes.
and Charles is sitting beside Catherine. Was he behaving as if, that's his girlfriend and stuff like that?
Well,
And I'm only asking because, if someone from the outside were just watching,
Yeah.
would it appear that she was having a good time with her boyfriend?
I mean, it's a hard question for me to answer because it's been so long.
Yeah.
It does. You'd have to know Charlie. I mean, I don't know how. I met him the one time. Most of this dinner was Charlie informing us about the world. He's talking a lot. So I don't know how he acts with girlfriends or women he's dating.
It's an honest answer.
And that's kind of important because it's the first time you're meeting him, right?
Right.
Tell the jury how much he talks.
Oh, you don't talk to Charlie Adelson. You listen to Charlie Adelson. I mean, I never say anything quite like it.
Right?
Wow.
He dominates the entire conversation.
He dominated that conversation. I don't remember what was said at that conversation, but there was interaction in that conversation. There was other people talking. I mean, I don't want that to be taken too far because Charlie was certainly
Other
a
people
character
did.
and someone I had a bad feeling about immediately, honestly, but
Mm.
it wasn't like 99% was just Charlie talking.
Yeah, of course.
Him and Katie were relating things they had done together. I don't remember the specifics 8 years later, but yeah.
And you had said on direct examination, he introduced Katie to you as his girlfriend.
I
right?
don't remember him saying the word girlfriend.
But like you said, we was talking about how things that they had done before that it was obvious to you that they were dating, right?
Yeah, and then it was fairly new, yeah.
Okay. It wouldn't be too smart for him to be introducing people if he's conspiring them, right?
Can you restate that?
It wouldn't be very smart of him to be introducing someone he's conspiring with to commit murder to other people, right?
I mean, I'm not an investigator. I'm not an expert on what's smart when conducting a criminal conspiracy.
Right.
So let's talk about now so you're all sitting outside. It was nighttime, right?
Very early evening. This was like a pretty early dinner. Sun was still out.
Okay. And then, but going into evening, kind of like how the sun here, like it doesn't, especially around this time,
Yeah.
it doesn't set till.
Between 4 and 6. I don't remember exactly when.
Okay. So it wouldn't be any problem if anybody that was around to be seeing you guys having dinner.
No, sure.
You leave that restaurant and then you all go collectively to get some ice cream.
Yeah, but
Yogurt.
I don't have real clear memories of that, but we walked to a yogurt place
Mhm.
and that wasn't very long. And then we headed to Charlie's house.
Now, how did you guys get to Charlie's house? Were you and Wendi in the car by yourself?
Wendi had driven a rental
Mhm.
down from
Hmm.
Tallahassee and she was driving.
So Charles got into his own vehicle and drove and met you back at the house.
Yes.
Okay. And so you and his house is in Fort Lauderdale, correct?
Yeah, he's on Well Harbor. That's right.
So it would be at least a 14-minute drive, 45 minutes. Just if you can remember, it's not a quick 10
No,
minute
it wasn't like
I
5
know.
minutes. It was away.
It's so crazy because it wasn't even a plea deal. We were refreshing our memories on this just the other day. It was full immunity. Like it was full immunity. Like she would not even like pleading to a lesser offense or like time served or like a lesser sentence. It was like no charges, like nothing, like full immunity, get out of jail, go home. You're not charged with anything, nothing on your record. I mean, incredible. I don't know why, it's just wild. Yeah. No, it's totally. I mean, it's easy to get them confused because plea deal is normally what we usually say. That's like the lingo, I just wish, one thing I would just wish is that, for these trials that have already happened, I wish we could hear from the jury, of like the jury that's watching this, right? And to ask them like, what did you think about Wendi's involvement? Like that would be so interesting because, this is like all about, about Wendi. Yeah.
Okay. And then so you go up to the house
I
and
know.
then you go inside, right?
That's right.
Now, Catherine doesn't come back to Charles's house, right?
No, Catherine returned to her own house.
She went back to her own home.
Yeah.
But then Charles comes back and then you, Charles, and Wendi all sit down in the hot tub.
Right. I think we talked otherwise as well, but we spent a couple hours in that hot tub. Yeah.
Okay. And this is where I think you said this is when he starts talking about some very weird things, right?
Yes,
Okay. He was very braggadocious, is the word you'd use.
he was.
And wasn't he kind of like talking about inappropriate, for example, he was talking about inappropriate sexual things he's
Yes.
done with girls, was
He
one of the
was.
things he talked about, right?
Yeah, that one in front of your sister. Yeah, I was fairly stunned by him talking about sexual sadism in front of his younger sister. Yeah.
Wow.
You're sitting right there, he's kind of talking to you, but this is things he's discussing in front of his sister, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then he also talked about going on trips and sleeping with young girls in other countries, right?
Don't think that was in the hot tub. That was information related from Wendi to me during the
Oh.
relationship.
Okay,
But
sorry,
he
I
certainly,
apologize. But she was aware of that. Like she's telling you how her brother is. That
Yeah,
he goes
she's
to
a-
other countries and sleeps with really young girls.
yeah, and she's supposedly a human trafficking activist, so it's pretty bizarre.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And-
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
He also talked to you at this, and in this hot tub, like when you guys are talking, did he come across as being like, trying to brag that he was a person that has friends on two sides of the tracks?
Yeah, that's a nice summary overall. I don't remember a lot of the specific details, but he was more street smart or more street, if you know what I mean by that, than I would have expected from a millionaire Miami dentist. Yes.
Okay. And was he doing that more in the hot tub
Millionaire
than how
Miami
he was when he was at dinner with everybody?
Wow.
I don't remember much of the dinner, so I can't really make a comparison.
Okay, but the hot tub incident kind of stands out.
The hot tub stuck out. Yeah.
Okay, and did you describe him as being very cocky, arrogant, and narcissistic?
Yes.
Okay, and he also talked about in front, and this is the first time he's met you. He was talking about what he does with his finances, right?
Yes, he was bragging about financial crimes, essentially.
Basically, like, yeah, I'm a dentist by day, but I also dabble in these other things that I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
And was bragging to you about that.
Yes.
What kind of impression did that leave with you?
Well, when Danny Markel was murdered, I went to the police immediately and said, you need to be investigating Charles Adelson. So done it 3 days after he was murdered. So.
And that is what I wanted to talk to you about. So when you only met him once, and the first time that you heard that the police wanted to talk to you, you immediately, now let's talk about that. How did you find out that the police would like to ask you some questions about what's going on?
I was called, he was murdered on July 18th.
Right.
I was on my way back down south to Tallahassee, and I received a call from TPD asking me to come in, and I actually drove straight to the station.
When they called you on your phone, and did they identify themselves as
Yes.
the Tallahassee Police
Yeah,
Department?
Investigator Corey Hill.
Okay. Okay. And he actually said, I'm with the Tallahassee Police Department, and we would like you to come in and answer some questions, right?
Something to that effect.
Did they tell you what it was about?
I don't recall, but I don't know that he needed to.
Okay. Oh, had you heard already what happened?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Wow.
you immediately went there, but they kind of like, gave you the option and invited you to come in, right?
They
They didn't go and arrest you.
They did not arrest me.
Okay.
No.
And when you first came into your first meeting with Corey Hill, he started out the meeting by saying, hey, listen, we're working to exclude you as a suspect.
Yes, we had a conversation about excluding me.
That's
And the impression
what
I
you get everybody though.
got was that, I guess, I warned sense that they already done some investigating, of my
Mhm.
cell phone and so forth, so that
Mhm.
the investigation of me had reached a point where that was just, that we're at the point where they were trying to exclude me. That's right.
Now, they haven't heard from you yet, right?
Say,
They haven't heard from you yet. Like you haven't provided them any information yet.
no, they haven't, but my cell phone shows me in another state when he was murdered. So
But at that time though, you hadn't realized Wendi had kind of named you or implied that you could have been a suspect in this case, right?
I didn't realize that when I was heading into the station. By the time I left the station,
So it's pretty clear.
I mean, no one said that word for word, but I'm not stupid, and I could tell pretty quickly that, yeah.
You'd agree with me. People don't have to say things directly sometimes. You can just leave little crumbs and you can pick up on what they're trying to get at, right?
I mean, yeah, sometimes, and
That's a good question by this attorney that can, using his own story to also make the point for what they're going to try to say for Katie, right? Like between how everything happened with her and Charlie. And Katie describes as much even when she testifies at Charlie's trial. Like, I think she even uses the breadcrumbs example. Or
I mean,
maybe
I'll say this: I was never quite sure until I was able to view Wendy's interrogation video. In which case, it became 100%.
Okay.
I suspected that previously. I thought maybe.
Oh my God! Let me back that up. Oh,
Trying
fuck.
to get at, right?
I mean, yeah, sometimes, and
Let me just preface this by saying, y'all who've been here before, you guys know how I feel about that interrogation video. That is the most guilty interrogation I've ever seen. Interesting that he has the same type of reaction there.
I mean, I'll say this: I was never quite sure until I was able to view Wendy's interrogation video. In which case, it became 100%.
Okay.
I suspected that previously.
Yeah.
I thought maybe, but once I saw her video, there it is in black and white. So.
Now,
Yes,
even
indeed.
though now you know they considered you as a
Yep.
suspect, you walked into a room at Tallahassee Police Department, correct?
Yes.
And they reported you, right?
Yes.
I mean, now we don't have to go back in 2014 to wonder what it was that you said.
Right. I guess.
It's
yeah.
there in black and, well, not black and white, but
Yeah,
in color. So,
Yeah. My first interview was video recorded. The first interview I did with them. Yeah.
so it's the second one, right?
You mean on the 21st?
I have July 21st, July 23rd, and
Sorry.
March 6th.
Yeah. So I had a videotape interview the 21st. I had a videotape interview the 23rd where I came back and added Wendy to the list of people I thought they should be investigated.
Okay. But on that first day, even though you'd only met him once, you thought it was imperative for you to tell these detectives, if you're going to look at someone, you need to look at her brother.
I did that reluctantly. I was worried about my safety, but I did. That's right. That's correct. Yeah.
You were even in that point, even though you've only met him one time, asked if you could speak to them off the record, right?
Yeah. I got a feeling about Charlie. I had a bad feeling.
Mhm.
And explain to the jury, it wasn't that, oh, I want to tell you something that, may be bad for me. I'm scared that Charlie may come back and do something if I call him out.
Yeah, it's also just cutting across hairs of a criminal investigation, which is like being
Right.
thrown into a weird movie. It's a very bizarre sort of thing.
No kidding.
I didn't know how realistic that threat would be,
Well
but I
said.
thought Charlie was potentially a dangerous person.
Well
And this was,
said, Jack.
like I said, and I'm going to stress it, only after meeting him once.
Yeah, about 4 hours is all it took.
Oh, 4 hours. All right. So now going back to, I want to talk about those dates leading up to when you guys, when Mr. Professor Markel was murdered.
Yes.
So you talked about the trip to Gainesville, and this is when things started to get weird with the fighting between you and Wendi, correct?
Correct. That's when the big disagreement was. Yeah.
Okay. And then on the drive back, you had described that as the most awkward drive ever.
Yes.
Okay. And so you return to Tallahassee, and the next day she leaves to Miami.
That's what she told me she was doing. Yeah, I assume that happened.
So on July 1st of 2014, she would have been in Miami, as best as you can
Yes.
recollect.
Yes.
Okay. And all the way up until July 30th.
Yes.
All the time she's texting with you, communicating with you while she's in Miami, right?
Yeah, we had 5 to 10 communications, some phone calls, some video chats with the kids. She was cleaning out her childhood room in Coral Springs. I remember video chatting with her and the kids. So yeah, that's right.
Nothing in those communications indicating to you that something was amiss? That she was going to probably come back and the next day ask to take a week break?
Oh, I mean, we had some heart-to-hearts. I got these long emails. She kept, this is what I'm talking about, being strung along. This is what I'm referring to. It would make sense. You have a big fight, you break up. It wasn't like that. I'm getting texts that say, I miss you. I'm getting 1,000-word emails. We're having video chats with the kids. We're on the phone.
Absolutely disgusting.
It seemed like we were going to work things out, which is why that breakup date is so hard to pin down.
Yeah.
Which is why it was so odd to you.
It's extremely strange.
So she gets back to Tallahassee, and on the Monday before Dan Markel is killed, that's when you guys have dinner, right?
What's the calendar date, ma'am? I know it is the 13th. The 13th
I'm
is the
sorry, I
dinner.
tried to go back by from.
So that's, July 13th, we had dinner and saw a movie. That's correct.
Okay. And you watched the movie Neighbors.
We did.
Okay. And another thing she did that was, and you had spoken to the Ms. Kappelman about this, is that she specifically, after you guys broke up or after the yoga session on the Tuesday, that she specifically asked you about your travel plans on Friday.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. And you actually thought that was strange because you're getting the vibe that we're breaking up, but now you're asking me where I'm going to be on Friday at 11 a.m.
Which is why I went to the police on July 23rd and highlighted that as the first of many suspicious things I thought they needed to know.
And you'd agree with me that at the time when you first spoke to the police, and I mean, it's common sense that your memory of the details of everything that went on in 2014 were better in 2014.
Mostly, although I also, mostly.
Like if we went into details about what you did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
No.
you'd know back then better than you do now.
As far as memory, yes, but I also reviewed all my text messages and emails when I came back to talk to the police a few months later, and that did raise things that I did not remember in July.
And so you would agree with me that first time you probably weren't properly equipped to give them all the details. You needed to go back and review things, right?
I think I gave them the important details on those first 2 days, which is Charlie and Wendi Adelson need to be investigated. But there were other details that I uncovered as I thought about it. It's also a pretty traumatic situation. It takes a little bit to get your head on straight, to think straight, obviously.
Now, so you leave Thursday, but you never tell Wendi that you're leaving on Thursday, right?
No, I did not.
So as far as she knew, you were leaving on Friday at 11 a.m.
Yes.
All right. And you'd agree with me that had it not been for your credit card receipts, the Walmart video, and other things, you probably could be sitting at the table between two lawyers, right?
I mean, if I had left town.
This is interesting. So her strategy here is to try to make it seem, this is smart, just to see how, try to highlight to the jury just how easily anybody could end up in that position that Katie's in. Because remember, even though at Charlie's trial, Katie's like taking responsibility and stuff, this is her trial. And at this point, remember, she turned down that, full immunity. And she is, pleading not guilty and saying she doesn't, have anything to do with it or whatever. So, but of course, what she's saying, this attorney is highlighting is of course true, which is how easily you can end up the person. Runkle, shout out to Runkle the Bailey, gives a great example. I've told this before and I'll tell it again. I don't know if she's Chilean, about the tomato story. So Runkle gives a story about how it's like let's just say that you're a person and you didn't commit any crime, whatever. And then the police come by and they're like, hey, can we talk to you? And you're like, okay. And then you only say, you make one statement, and that statement is, I like tomatoes, right? And then as it turns out, there was tomato juice all over the crime scene. And so, they arrest you or whatever, right? So, anyway, just how easily you could end up in that position. And I think she's trying to, because the jury loves him, I'm sure, illustrating, I guess, what they are going to then show during their case in chief for Katie Magbanua to illustrate that through Jeff, because he's already on the witness stand and he's a likable witness. So it's smart, not much else.
Without a cell phone, not entered a store, not used a credit card, things could have been more complicated. But this was in 2014. It's a pretty unlikely scenario, it seems like to me. I worried that there was an effort made to, make it look as if, but there was also 10 other reasons that would have, that word exculpatory. There's 10 other reasons why I couldn't have done it that we didn't even have to go to, because we had this videotape of me and
You didn't even have to go there because they gave you the opportunity to give everything over and for you to, explain your side of the story, right?
Well, they filed search warrants. That's what it wasn't.
They got a search warrant again?
That's
Did they tell you that before they go?
My understanding is they had search warrants for cell phones and financial records or some sort of court paperwork. I'm not a lawyer, but it wasn't as simple as I show them your cell phone and you walk away. I showed them that to show, look, I didn't do it. And they did additional investigation after that.
Okay. But you'd agree with me that had you had to get those things, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years after, they may have disappeared. There probably may not have been a video. If your cell records, for example, if you had Sprint, they only hold them for 2 years, right?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Okay. But at the time is when you probably should be gathering as much evidence as possible before, it goes stale or expires, right?
Again, I'm not a criminal investigator. And
I'm only asking based on common sense.
Well, I hope I have some common sense. And but maybe I don't. I'm a college professor. It's no, let's go together. That sounds right, but I worry that I'm giving you opinion based on no expertise on law enforcement or investigations whatsoever. I want to stick to what I know.
No, and I appreciate that, Mr. Lacasse. I don't want anything to come across me.
Yeah,
I want
not
to
an
be able to
expert.
explain 100% to
Yeah.
the jury. Now, another thing I wanted to make clear is that statement, the joke that Wendi made about, oh, my brother had joked about looking into hiring a hitman, but got me this TV as a divorce person. It was cheaper, right?
Well, that's the joke, not what I would call the chilling statement.
Right. I'm talking about the joke.
Yes.
She told you that he said that the summer that they were divorced, right?
Say that again, please.
That would have been in the summer of 2013, correct?
I don't know when the joke started. If Wendi told a joke once, she was one of those people you probably heard it 10 more times. So I don't know how long she's been telling that joke, how many times she told
But
it.
you'd agree with me that if, based on what she's saying to you, that they would have been around the time of the divorce that he made that representation.
Yeah, I just don't know when she started telling that joke, although I heard it for the first time in October of 2013.
Okay, and you have no idea when he met Miss Magbanua, right?
Who's he?
Charlie.
No, I don't know when they met.
And that one time that you were sitting there with Charlie, did he at all, I think you had mentioned it, he was vocal too, they were talking about Dan Markel in the hot tub?
He made some comments about Dan Markel that I can't recall word for word, but it was clear he was not a fan, but he was very upset with Dan Markel. Yeah.
Now, when you said Katie had referenced talking about her ex-husband, right? Or ex-boyfriend, however she referred it, father of her kids.
Yeah, she.
I don't know why her uncle's hair has anything to do with, I mean, I don't know why. Okay, let me just say, I don't know why appearances have anything to do with the quality of the, commentary and analysis. I mean, I don't pay attention to those things. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Uncle. I feel like I've learned a lot from him, and he's freaking hilarious. So
I recounted the little that I recall, which is that he had a criminal record and the word fighting, the word police, and that's all I remember. It seemed fairly serious.
Did it come across that she was still with him, or was she speaking about him like he was her ex?
I don't think I know the answer to that question.
Okay, and that's a fair response.
Yeah.
I'm just asking what you remember.
I'm trying to separate what I know from what I've heard since, and I don't think I would know.
Okay, and the things she had said was he has a criminal record, issues with the police. Did you mention anything about the fact that he was on drugs? Anything like that sound familiar?
I really wish I could remember every word from that conversation. Seems important now. I can't. But to your prior question, clearly Charlie was dating Catherine now. So I didn't get the impression that she was still with the father of her children, but there was some sort of ongoing relationship due to the kids in custody. And there was a mention of some kind of court thing. I don't know what it was. So there was obviously still some sort of social connection, but I don't think they were dating.
Kind of like Wendi and Danny, right? Like if we were to look at, your phone records and Katie's phone records, not Katie, and Wendy's phone records. At the time you were dating her, right? She'd be in constant communication with you, correct?
Oh, well, that's funny. Wendi was notorious for not returning texts or phone calls. So,
but there'd be a lot of communications from you to her, though.
No, there would be communications both ways, to be fair. Sure. I don't know what you would consider a lot, but yeah, we're dating. There's going to be communications.
And there should be communications between her and the father of her kids, right?
that was an issue I think that was actually headed into court on what basis that was allowed when he could text her. They had a parenting coordinator. She was protesting. So I think I don't have personal knowledge of that. That was actually a contentious issue. Is how much should he be allowed to contact her was an issue in contention.
He wanted more, but it didn't suggest that he had no contact with them, right?
No, not that he had no contact, but she wanted as limited contact with him as possible, given that they were divorced. And I think Professor Markel was trying to be more collaborative as, co-parenting in that situation. So I remember situations where she would get a text and very upset that he texted her, for example.
I don't
Do
know.
you recall anything unusual
I don't know who
about
Getty
Shari
Lee
when
is.
Katie was talking about her ex?
No,
Did he say anything like, I don't know that guy?
I wish I could remember that conversation. I told you everything I could remember about that
Okay.
conversation.
Can I have one more here?
One moment. Yeah, I don't know what Getty Lee is. Wish I did.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lacasse. It's good to see you.
Redirect?
All right, thank you. Hold on one second. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Redirect. Here,
Mr. Lacasse, you were asked about the dinner. We talked about it on direct as well, where you met Captain Magbanua and Charlie Adelson for the first time.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and they appeared to be dating at that time.
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell us the date, or is there anything that would refresh your memory of the date of that dinner?
It was during spring break 2014,
Okay, so sometime in that,
like March 10th to 14th. Honestly, I think I've said it before. I've just forgotten it today. I apologize.
that's okay. I just wondered if there was anything that you could look at that would refresh your recollection on the specific date, because I think you have said
I
before.
think I have said it before. I don't know where.
Okay. All right. And when you departed the dinner, you went to a vehicle and Mr. Adelson went to his vehicle. Were your vehicles in close proximity to each other, or was he parked somewhere else where you couldn't see him?
I couldn't see his vehicle. I've been asked that before because Wendi Adelson and I had arrived in that area hours earlier. We're kind of walking around looking at shops and stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't remember the parking arrangement, but I don't think we were parked right up against it compared to them.
Okay. And once you returned to your vehicles, you returned to Mr. Adelson's residence. Is that right?
Correct.
And did you say you spent the night there that night?
I did. I flew out the next morning.
Okay. And when you arrived at Mr. Adelson's restaurant, you just traveled straight from the yogurt to his residence, right?
Yes.
And is that what he did as well, as far as you know?
I have no idea.
Was there a delay? Were you there for some time before he arrived back?
I don't recall.
Okay. When he arrived back at his residence, I guess once you got there, did you have to wait for him to let you in? Were you waiting outside for some time?
That could be true, but I don't recall it.
Okay. When he did arrive, did it appear that he was shaken or upset about something?
I don't recall that.
Did he have any obvious injuries that appeared he'd been in some type of physical altercation?
I don't recall any of that.
Is
no.
that something you think you would recall?
I think so. I mean, he was the same in the hot tub as he was in dinner, only more so, if that makes sense. It wasn't a slight towards a negative direction or injuries or anything like that. It was like he was holding forth more once he got home. It seemed like more of
Jovial,
say again.
jovial, outgoing,
Jovial.
Very
talkative.
gregarious, hyperverbal is what we call it in clinical work. Hyperverbal.
All right. And during his
Oh
hyperverbal
yeah,
session,
for anyone who isn't familiar too. So he's a professor, but he's a professor in like psychology or like that type of field. So anyway, yeah, I guess it's psychology. I think he worked as like a therapist at some point, but anyway, trained psychologist and professor. So
word vomiting all over the hot tub. Did he mention that he had just been in an altercation of some type in the parking lot of the restaurant?
No,
Is that something you would have remembered?
I think I would have remembered that.
the singer
Is
in Rush.
there any connection between you and the people that killed Dan Markel?
No,
You weren't on the wiretap, were you?
no,
You weren't captured at all on the wiretap?
no.
Did I'm gonna object outside scope across.
Overruled.
You were asked on cross-examination about your alibi, right?
Yes.
You know, if you didn't have that alibi, you might be a suspect in this case, right?
Yes.
Well, you don't have any connection to the killers, do you?
Zero.
All right. And you talked about the joke about hiring a hitman. It was made in 2013.
Yes.
Yes. And the chilling statement about Charlie's serious interest in hiring a hitman was made to you 5 days before the murder, correct?
Correct.
And it was referencing that he had done that in 2013.
That's right.
All right. But obviously, was the murder of Dan Markel accomplished in 2013?
No, Danny lived throughout 2013 and through half of 2014.
All right. And it was accomplished in 2014
That's correct.
when Charlie Adelson was dating.
The thing is this
Who?
shows, I mean,
Catherine.
this shows again, talk about pre-planning, right? I mean, that's the significance of that statement that Wendi said to him about a year prior, right?
Magbanua, that's correct.
No further questions.
All right, we can release a witness.
I'd like him to remain under ruling order.
Okay, you'll remain in the subpoena. They'll let you
Got
know
his
if you
purse.
testify.
He's ready to
Okay?
go.
Right, you're free to go. Thank you.
He's free to go.
All right, we're going to take our lunch break now. I apologize. We have gone well over the noon hour and we're almost at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to give you until 2 o'clock and we'll start promptly with the testimony at that time. Please, again, no discussions with each other or with anyone else or any news reports or access to internet about the case. We'll see everybody back at 2 o'clock to start with the testimony at that time. Okay, thank you.
And there's the defendant. Where's my mouse? So, so they're probably like, wow, Jeff was a great witness. Yeah, I mean, his man purse. So that's it for this one. So we will pick up next time with, we will do Luis Rivera. And I think we might also do, I'll have to look and see. We're definitely going to do Katie, but I'm trying to go in chronological order. So we will, remember at this point, Charlie had just been arrested the month previous to this, which is just crazy because he was arrested in April 2022. This was in May 2022. But as I was mentioning the Karen Reed hearing tomorrow, I am thinking I'm going to try to cover that at some point while it's going on. Again, we don't really know yet what they're going to be discussing. I'm going to try to do some more research and maybe take another look back at the previous hearing where they discussed the scheduling and just see if I missed anything, because, from my recollection was that it was like they kind of never stated point blank what they were going to be doing on this day, because this day was going to be reserved for potential Daubert. But anywho, we also have, of course, on the lookout for new BK docs. So there's a lot going on with all the different cases that we're following. So yeah, we'll definitely have something going on tomorrow. At least, at the very least, we'll have Karen Reed. If not, maybe Karen Reed and BK, depending on what happens. And as always, I'm still working on getting that stuff put together with the maps. I already talked about that tonight, but I don't know when I'll have that ready. But I want to have a comprehensive map. And I thought about it. And I'm like, it'd almost be easier if I could just have an entire wall of my house with a map on it that's big, where I could just draw with markers, but that doesn't transfer to a live stream. So, but where I can map out all the different routes and then map out, the cell towers and overlay, Brett Payne's quote unquote maps from the PCA. Anyway, you guys heard me talk about it, but yeah, was there anything else? Let me just think here. Oh yeah, I'm still going to get some more clips from Wendi to put on here as for little sound clips and whatnot too. So I need to do that. But yeah, nighty night to you as well. You're very welcome as always. Thanks so much for being here too. Love it. Yeah, the Adelson saga continues. Oh, and that's the other thing. There's Donna shenanigans too. So maybe we'll do something with that as well at some point. Because yeah, Donna's doing the most as she's in custody awaiting trial. Oh God. Okay. Yeah. So, but love y'all. Scroll crew. You guys are the best. I can take this banner down. And I will see you guys next time.